Mm-hmm. Ba-doo. Let me make sure that's actually going.
All right, I think it's there we go, perfect. All right, I think we're live here. I'm just gonna wait a second and see if everyone can hear us fine. I don't know if you guys have it up. Yeah, I'm still getting.
I've got it up and it's running right now.
Perfect. Yep. All right, hey everyone. I think we're good to go. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. We'll wait a second. Before we start though, too, I just want to thank everyone here on the live Hangout for joining me live. This is going to be a lot of fun. I wanted to do a Hangout here, but I didn't want to do it like with just me. I want to get a bunch of perspectives going. But yeah, hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. I see Manta Ray, Mason, Kara, Jeff, Embro Gaming, Pedro. Hey, Donald. Hey, Kai Turner, Dalton Ace Hicks. Perfect. Blitzkrieg Gamer. I think I saw Imperialist say he's like 20 minutes out of his first viewing. So thanks again, guys. I threw up a poll on Twitter, and I'm glad that I waited a day because I think that the results would have been a little bit different. But I am not surprised, but I have noticed almost a bit of a turnaround in sentiments. People are a little bit more on the positive side. I'm going to ask everyone here in the live Hangout, but in the chat, just give me like a thumbs up or a thumbs down on your initial impressions of The Last Jedi. And maybe I'll throw here in the live discussion too. I know you guys there's been multiple viewings. I'm still only on my first viewing, but give me like your first viewing reactions, what you guys thought, and anyone feel free to jump in to start.
Okay, well, I'll just start then.
Yeah, start things up, Donna. Let's hear it.
First, I want to say I did not hate the movie. Okay. I actually put it in the top half of Star Wars movies. And if you want to separate it out from Star Wars movies, I think it's generally a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not my favorite.
Can I just ask you this quick, Donna, and then I'll ask everyone else. But did you like it more than Episode 7? Like when you came out of the theater, was it better than 7 for you? Because this was an interesting question. Yes. I went back. Yeah, better than 7. Okay. Very cool. Yes. I thought initially for me it was as well. What did initial feelings with Diego, Matt, or Andrew? What did you guys think initially?
Oh, I adored this film. Even after my third viewing, I'm to the point where I'm tentative, but I do think it's my favorite out of all 9. 10? No. How many do we have now, if you include the Clone Wars movie? Anyways.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, it is still I do think that it's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Really? Nice.
After repeated viewings.
Right. What about after your first? Did you have like the same general sentiment?
Yeah, sort of. I definitely still had that same sentiment. Like I'm like, I think I just saw my favorite Star Wars movie. I know I had lots of positive emotions. And then I was up until 6 o'clock in the morning thinking about it.
Cool. I see in chat. It's a little bit, I would say it's about 50-50. I mean, you can't really tell thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up might just be like better than 5 out of 10, but I would say it's split. I would say on opening night, though, I think I saw a lot more thumbs down. But I think, Jacob, then I'll ask you there, Matthew, but Jacob, what was your reaction after like the first viewing? Because I think you have a good story here.
My first reaction was, can I please get 5 minutes without a stupid joke? That was my first reaction.
Yeah, Andrew and I were on with Bessie yesterday, and he had sort of the same sentiments in regards to the humor and things that I could...
After I saw it for the first time, it was like there was 2 writers of the movie. First, which created the skeleton, or basically the base script, which was great. The basic story for me, it was excellent. and then there was jokes and dialogues, and I do not like them.
Right. I see people in chat too agreeing with some of the humor being too much. Here's how I sort of rationalized it. Like, and it's not really fair. It's a weird way of putting it. Okay, Imperialists sort of hit the nail on the head for me. Like,
Yeah.
we went back and forth on the Luke throwing the lightsaber behind him. Things like that sort of define scenes, but were humorous, I think were good. When it was like how Imperialist was saying, and I think you had the same reaction too, Donna, where it undermined characters that I hope, like, that I wish that it didn't, perhaps in scenes that I wished were a bit more serious. I think overall, though, like, to be fair, I went along for the ride and I was laughing more than I wasn't, or where I was cringing. So I definitely know what you mean, though, because it did feel, especially at the end, I saw an interview with Rian Johnson who said that he was trying to front load the movie with a lot of humor because it was going to get darker at the back end of the movie. But I don't think that the movie got to a dark place as maybe other people did. But I think there was even a lot of humor on near the end of the movie. But I definitely know what you're thinking there, Jacob. Was it just the humor, or was there other stuff that maybe you didn't like?
Humor and Phasma.
Oh, and Phasma. Yeah. You wish that you saw more Phasma, or
More Phasma, and Phasma being this epic person, which we know from the books.
I was just gonna say, well, we know from the novel that it's like, what do you guys? And maybe I'll just throw this out, and then we'll get Matt's initial reaction. But what did you guys think of the lack of Phasma? Because apparently we were told this time around that we were going to get a little bit more Phasma, but we did not get novel Phasma. We sort of got it, even in my opinion, I would say less.
More.
Sorry, Donna?
We got like half a second more.
Yeah, it really wasn't too much more at all. But, and let me just throw this out. I see Paul is in chat here. Let me know there, Paul, if you want to get in on the live discussion here, and I'll send out an invite. But did anyone else, was Phasma a big thing for
Yes,
anyone else? Or?
It made me mad.
Yeah, we read the book.
I almost left the theater when she died. I was like, what?
What did you think?
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say just with you and Matt, if you guys had any strong opinions on Phasma.
Boba Fett.
Okay.
It's Boba Fett, so if you're not mad about Boba Fett, I don't really understand not being mad about Phasma, to be blunt.
I am mad about Boba Fett, but it's 15 years ago, and it's no longer like it's no longer actual. So now I am mad about Phasma.
And for what it's worth, I do understand that my argument of, well, if you're not mad about Boba Fett, then you shouldn't be mad about Phasma. That is kind of a flawed argument because, well, that means that Rian Johnson, or rather the story group or whoever the people are that are making these films, are making the same mistakes that Lucas did with the original trilogy. So I understand that's a flawed argument, but I'm just pointing that out.
Right. See, I think with us, I'm seeing just in chat, it seems like people who read the novel maybe wanted a bit more Phasma. We all pretty much read the novel here, so we might have a different perspective. Phasma wasn't a big deal for me. I liked Phasma, the character from the novel, but it was just, I did sort of chuckle just to see how much Gwendolyn Christie was. It's Gwendolyn Christie, right? Do I have
Yes.
that? Okay, yeah. Because I know there's Christy Golden, the author, so I thought I was conflating the two. But I see people who, it seems like people in chat didn't mind too much, and I don't know if they read the novel or not, but I'm going to go back to Phasma in a second here, but I want to hear what Matthew's initial reaction was. Are you on one viewing, Matthew, or multiple? Or
I'm on my first viewing.
Me too, so we're in the same boat.
Nice. I'm going to my second viewing tomorrow morning. And my initial reaction was I really enjoyed the movie. I walked out really excited. It's almost like you said earlier, I almost had a high from it. I was just kind of sitting in my car in traffic, like, holy crap, like maybe I should just pull over and like take my notes now. But there was a couple plot holes and stuff in there that I understand where people would really get a distaste for it. But some of my favorite movies in Star Wars history came from this movie now. And I'm actually more excited to go see the second viewing than I was my first.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat as that. I'm like desperate to get out to my second viewing of it as well. But I had to fight the whole notes thing as well. I sort of, on this first one, and this is why I'm holding off on doing some videos and things. I think I might have heard Andrew say it yesterday, but or maybe in one of our groups, but just to go along for the ride, I really fought not going in with expectations. I don't know if you guys all did the same, but I was, yeah, I think, see, for me, I had like all these ideas where I wanted Luke to go, where I wanted maybe the Force to be defined. I didn't get any of those expectations. So if I didn't, like, I was very Luke-ish, I think, in this, where he disconnected from the Force. I disconnected completely from all my expectations. And there was something to be said for me about it being completely not what I was expecting. Like, I don't know where we're going to go with Snoke. I'm hearing a lot of things that he might show up down the road in episode 9, but not expecting that with Snoke. I was a bit curious throughout the movie where I thought Kylo was going, but the way it worked out for him was a lot of fun. Luke was 100% different than what I was expecting, but even there, I think that there's a lot of stuff that on multiple viewings, I'll look at a lot different and really come to respect it. So that's interesting on initial, oh, and I see we got Ben here. How's it going, Ben?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing very well. We just finished asking everyone about their initial impressions. Let me throw it your way, Ben. What did you think? Like, I'm not sure how many times you've seen it this far, but just after your first viewing, what was the gut reaction?
I was pretty happy with it. I saw it Thursday, and it's a 7 p.m. show, so it was the earliest one that was available around here, and I really liked it. I think what really informed the reason I liked it so much is it really, all of the things that I was hungering for some kind of clarity on from Force Awakens, occurred here. So I have to watch it again to decide, is it really a good film, or was it just satisfying in that all the questions that I had, at least, I have enough to be more satisfied than I was left in the last one. So
Nice. I'm seeing in chat you're getting a lot of respect for pulling off the filming, jumping on remote from in your car there, Ben. I hope you're staying safe there. But that's.
Oh, so it's hands-free. It's all hands-free.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's so interesting. Now, where do you guys want to jump in first? I debated this on my review, but I'm thinking we go with the Luke aspects or the Snoke aspects. Where do you guys want to?
Ooh, Snoke aspects.
All right, yeah.
Ooh, I will happily talk about the Snoke aspects.
It's funny. I think we can. I think with the Bane avatar there, I think I should have guessed Snoke was your preference there, Matthew. Sorry, I might have cut you off there, Jacob? Did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I no longer think that Snoke is a shit.
Okay, yeah. Let's see in chat. I'll throw it out generally to us here in the live discussion, but I want to see in chat too if everyone thinks that, or just give me your opinions on what you thought about the whole Snoke death, because I don't know what you guys thought, but that was one that I don't know if I saw. Certainly I didn't see it coming, but I don't think anyone saw it coming. Let me throw it out. Happy with the Snoke death in episode 8?
I am very much so. I'm personally, I thought it was really well done. I think it was interesting, for me at least, the kind of the play on balance, how, Snoke actually was kind of distracted by kind of focusing on the dark saber and the action it was going to take, where he kind of missed what the lightsaber was, the light side saber was doing. He was, trying to see both sides in balance, and he ended up, the behavior wasn't in balance, and then it ended up kind of getting, it was kind of poetic, actually. The one thing I still am worried about, and still bothers me, and we probably never will get satisfaction, is how someone like Snoke, with his age and his power and blah blah, existed during the age of Palpatine, and nobody knew. It's like Palpatine had gotten to the point where he was so powerful, and that was what was established, is he was so powerful in the dark side. People say, well, who is Snoke? Well, it doesn't matter. Snoke is Snoke, and that's fine. And especially now, it doesn't matter because he's gone. But the question I had, the still lingering question is, well, okay, it'd be one thing if they created this, young, super amazing, powerful guy, but who wasn't around when Palpatine was, but how do we explain what the heck was up with him? And I still think that's a niggling thing, but I'm really glad how it turned out with him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Before I dive into maybe some of the Snoke aspects there, what did you guys also think about what we got from Snoke in Episode 8?
With Snoke in general, yeah, because there is pre-existing stuff that preceded this, and Snoke was around during the time of Palpatine and during the time of the original Jedi. Knowing where he's from and stuff is important eventually. But in terms of the actual story that's being told in the sequel trilogy, he is meant to be a plot device to plant the seed of the dark side inside of Kylo or Ben. That's what he was meant to be. It's, if you think about it, back in the original trilogy, for the story that the original trilogy was trying to tell, the only thing that mattered about the Emperor, and the only thing we really learned about the Emperor, is that he seduced Anakin Skywalker and turned him into Vader.
Of course, yeah.
That's what he did in the original trilogy. That's it.
Right.
We didn't know where.
There wasn't any precedent either, so that was enough. Had this trilogy been born from nothing, then yeah, that would make totally sense. He's just the baddie. The timeline here that's been established, and so it just kind of niggled that, it's like, okay, you're right. Eventually, hopefully, we do find out. We don't really need to know right now. I mean, it's easy. They just say, well, he's in the Outer Rim, or he was hiding next to a light-side force bubble like Dagobah, the opposite of Dagobah with Yoda. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. But my point. Yeah, I know.
Were you gonna jump in there, Matthew?
Well, I was just thinking for Snoke, I'll speak for a couple of the people in there, and when he did get cut in half, it's like, okay, I'm pissed.
Right.
Like, that's not cool. He had showed off when Kylo had, flinched at him like he was going to go for Snoke. He just wiped him away with a half-second burst of Force lightning from that giant, and it's a kyber crystal ring on his finger, which is the most interesting part. And I think someone pointed out, maybe it was Star Wars theory, that ring came from underneath Vader's castle on Mustafar. There's some kind of ancient power with it, and I think he'll be back. Like, that death was too easy.
That's interesting.
And I really think he will reappear somehow or another, because he just seemed too powerful. Like, there's no way.
Then everybody will be saying he's Plagueis again.
Yeah, I'll take that. If he's Plagueis, I'm totally cool with that.
What did you think, Jacob? I think you wanted to get in there.
Basically, for me, everything what happened in the throne room was pure gold. I loved it. I loved every second. And at the end, when Hux wants to shoot Kylo, that's like the cherry on top.
Yeah. See, I think you guys make a lot of great points. Sorry, did you want to say something there, Donna? Maybe before I go off on a bit of a tangent here? Or?
Well, I mean, I just think they really built him up, and his death, while I'm glad that he died. Okay. And I liked how unexpected it was. If you think about it in tandem with how much he was built up and how much power he supposedly had, it seemed a little too easy.
It seemed well, for that reason, I found it to be completely unexpected. And the hilarious thing for me is when he was the first scene that we got with him and Kylo, where he was sort of like belittling Kylo, and then just the whole thing with Rey, I was actually like, oh man, Snoke this is a great character. I'm really getting into Snoke. And then when that lightsaber started turning, I was like, okay, well, wait a second. Is he gonna see this coming, or are we gonna lose Snoke at this point? It took me like 5 minutes after that scene to actually convince myself that like Snoke wasn't coming back. But in this film, I should say. I saw Matthew ask a good question in the chat there. Do you guys think he's going to come back at any point in this trilogy?
It all depends on what JJ wants to do. Really?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with I don't. There's going to be a gazillion theories, and I'm just going to go with no. And if it happens, then I guess there's going to be so many theories about it. I'm just like, what happens, and I don't want to personally. I don't want to go like, oh my God, Snoke's going to come back, and just think of all the ways it could happen. It's like, if it happens, I'm sure it'll be interesting. If it doesn't, it's great. But I'm kind of worried. I definitely feel like Lucasfilm has really been playing the fans. A rehearsals. It's like, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do this thing. Oh, I'm going to back out at the last second, and somebody else is going to take care of it for me. I mean, that theme right there happened at least 4 times in the movie, you know, where somebody lost their nerve and it happened anyway. One of the questions about the Snoke thing I've wondered, though, is controlling that other saber for sure. Or was it maybe, you know, they were each kind of controlling their own saber? I still feel it was Kylo, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'll probably give it to Kylo on this one. I don't know if anyone else thinks something differently there. Or... I think story-wise, it's just preferable that it was just Kylo. See, here's the thing for me is I had to sit with this one for a while too, but I think that there's a lot of connections that you can make with, and maybe some like interesting different directions that Rian Johnson went with Snoke wanting Kylo to just be Vader 2.0, and then Kylo having his own ambitions to, well, he wanted to be Vader in the sense that he wanted to be powerful. He wanted that power to come as him ruling the galaxy, not being under Snoke's thumb the entire time. So working it out, maybe thinking it like that. I don't know if you guys have looked at that scene a little bit more, you know, what was going on there in depth, but I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff. Well, I didn't necessarily get them with Luke. I think there's interesting, that throne room scene, I think is really the defining moment on what we were getting Force-wise, but I don't know if anyone else is a Force sycophant like I am.
Yeah, I think that Snoke, just one last thing about Snoke's death for me is that yeah, we should know more about him, and I want to. I, as a fan, want to know more about him. I, as a fan, was disappointed with The Last Jedi's kind of just nonchalantness of it. However, I'm not willing to give up the character moment of Kylo killing Snoke in order to get that information, that context.
Yeah, I'm glad you circled back to that, Andrew, because Donna, that was a good point I wanted to touch too, that Donna had made. Like, that was the one thing where it took me that 5 minutes to really wrap my head around it, where I was thinking, okay, but who is Snoke? Like, I don't know who that character is. And if we're basically all we have to go on is those scenes from 8, but, you know, Snoke is wise. Snoke is the supreme leader. Other than that, I didn't know what to make of that scene because I didn't really know too much about Snoke, but...
I personally kind of felt the more I learned about him in 8, the less interesting he kind of became. It's like, oh, he's a craggly old...
That's interesting,
super powerful horse user. I mean, kind of like Boba Fett initially, the mystery kind of helped him. And I'm just like, as I'm watching 8, I'm like, you know, he's really kind of an uninteresting villain. And then when he died, I'm like, oh, thank God, that's over. You know, because I was just like, you know, I mean, it was just like he was a necessary plot device, but he was kind of a not very dimensional character. He just was kind of, you know, I mean, at least, I mean, one thing, I mean, I'm a Palpatine division. I mean, Ian McDiarmid was delightfully maniacally, the way he performed that was just amazing. And so that, like, power of that crazy maniacal performance that he did, you know, was just you know, Andy Serkis is like, okay, I'm this intimidating guy, but there wasn't that bit of character that made me think he's a really cool character. He was just, you know, a guy with Andy Serkis's, you know, voice, and he just, I don't know, there wasn't just a little bit of dimension that I think made him interesting enough to where it's like, oh, we need to keep him around and learn more about him. So I don't know.
Right. The chat's bringing up a lot of good points too. Just based on some of the things I saw in chat here, it seems like the majority of people are thinking that it was a bit of a waste. But here's the thing. I have to try to square two things. All of the speculation that went into who Snoke was in between films, but there was something also to be said. I don't know if you guys, I know some people held off completely from looking at anything leading up to this, but we did get a lot of interviews where I know Andy Serkis talked about Snoke being, you know, extremely powerful, and he had this background that I think we talked about it a bit. His injuries were something that extended into the rebellion era. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of that now at this point. I don't know if it's going to come back up or if that was true or if it wasn't true. Maybe I should have held off. But
wait, the rebellion or the Republic era?
I think it was. Well, I think what the quote was, he didn't like the Resistance because of an experience he had, which led to his injuries from something in the past. So I sort of connected that with perhaps the Rebellion era, because there's the connection between the Rebellion and the Resistance. So maybe I'm looking into it a bit too much, but
Oh.
yeah, I don't.
When you say that, my mind goes to the Conan, Conan, no, it was the Red Sonja, horrible schlocky movie in the 80s, where the queen gets scarred or something, and she's just got this like horrible grudge against the character. When you said that, my mind just went to that. Like, I don't know about that.
Well, let me ask you guys too here. What did you think of the, maybe not just the Snoke Kylo aspect to that scene, but what did you guys think afterwards with the Kylo Ren? And chat, let me know too if anyone. I've seen a lot of this being people's favorite scene, but the Praetorian Guard versus Kylo and Rey. If anyone thought, okay, this is them joining together, or you saw maybe the split coming.
I adore that scene. I wanted the fight scene itself to be longer. For one thing, the choreography. That doesn't sound right.
Choreography.
Choreography. There we go. I know how words work. And the cinematography was just absolutely incredible for me. I loved it. I wanted that fight scene to keep going on. It felt like an Old Republic fight scene to me.
Yes.
It felt like a fight scene that you could see.
Magnificent, completely magnificent. The red background, the armor, it was amazing.
Yeah, and the fact that I, on my first viewing, and even on my second and third viewing, am sitting there going, I don't know what I want Rey to do here, is incredible. Because I'm such a huge Rey fanboy, and I love her being a huge fan of her just being this pure avatar of light. The fact that I was like, I don't know what I want her to do here.
Well, at what point were you wondering what you wanted her to do? Like during the fight, or like
once it was resolved, and once Kylo extended his hand, and just before she went for the lightsaber, I was like, I don't know what I want her to do here, and that's good storytelling to me. The fact that I didn't know where I wanted the story to go is good storytelling for me.
Well, basically, I wanted them to talk between she wants to get to the lightsaber because she does not know anything. He could control the First Order, but restore the galaxy and not be the evil guy with the First Order at his side. But of course he will be. But she does not know this when she attacks him. Well, when she tries to get the lightsaber.
That's really interesting. I'm just gonna jump off just for a second. Not jump off, but I see that Tech is in chat too. I'm gonna send him an invite here. But see, it's funny you say that. Maybe I'll just leave with this here before I send this invite out. But as Andrew was wondering, I don't know what I want Rey to do here. I was like, I don't know what I want Kylo to do here. I didn't know if that was symbolizing his turn to the light, or if he was just, going up against Snoke. But that scene was very interesting, where you didn't know what was going to happen after. I mean, you're going to assume they dispatch those Praetorian Guards, but did anyone think at that point that, what's going on with Kylo? Was it interesting from Kylo's perspective?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I for what it's worth, I mentioned Rey primarily because I'm a bigger fan of Rey as a character than Kylo. I still love Kylo, but I was also kind of sitting there going, I don't even know what I want Kylo to do right here in the moments before he, started talking to Rey after the fight. But as he was like looking at Snoke, I didn't know where I wanted him to go with that.
For me, when I thought, I'm like, okay. For me, when I thought, he's doing this to like. I don't know. I didn't read it as, oh my gosh, he's now been redeemed. He's back to the light. I kind of saw it as, okay, he's had a moment and now is like trying to get out of the immediate situation. But then I figured, oh, he's going to fall back into bad habits. I didn't see it as like this fork in the road where suddenly now he's come back to the light. So it was kind of cool. The fight and then I was like, okay, now exactly what I thought would happen is he is, wanting to have her join him, and together we can dominate the galaxy as Force brother and sister or whatever. But I didn't expect suddenly he's going to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to go hang out with my mom, and we're going to bring the I didn't think it was like that, So and I didn't expect I think she kind of stayed on the light side, during the whole thing, and was, they were just kind of fighting the light side battle, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay,
Yeah.
bad habits.
So go ahead, Donna.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's important to recognize that, this is kind of going back to the whole Snoke and Kylo thing, where you mentioned that maybe Kylo had bigger ambitions than being Darth Vader 2.0. I don't think he did. I think he genuinely thinks that Darth Vader is like the greatest thing he could ever aspire to.
That's interesting. See, I thought that it was...
I think he's very singular in his goal.
That's very interesting. I'll just throw this out, and then I'm going to say hi to Tech here and get his first impressions. But how's it going there, Tech?
Hello, I'm fine.
Let me just throw this out here, too. That's a great point, Donna. I think he still wanted to be Vader. I just don't think he wanted to be Snoke's, for lack of a better word, slave as Vader. I think he wanted to get that full power as Vader, but not
he
the
definitely
apprentice.
doesn't want to be a puppet anymore.
Yes, that's a better word. That's a better word. Great point.
I didn't get really any of the Vader stuff in this one, because I wondered, so he smashes his helmet in the thing. Is that him going, oh, well, this trying to be like my grandfather is stupid, or was that just, feeling, burned by, Snoke, making fun of his mask or whatever? I mean, I wasn't sure what I was seeing there. I mean, we don't know in his head, and maybe the novelization will make this clear. I mean, maybe he was just pissed at Snoke. Maybe he's like, this thing that I've been wanting my life is dumb, and I don't want it anymore. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking there. I mean, we didn't have the helmet. He never mentioned his grandfather really, so it's like I don't really know where the Vader movie, and I'm kind of curious to hear some of that internal monologue and things like the novelization that'll hopefully give us an idea of what he was thinking. And had he given up on that, or is he saying I have to forge my own path because my grandfather was indentured to this Palpatine character, and I don't want that. I don't want to be Snoke's Vader. So maybe this was his ambition, just going, screw it, I'm gonna be better than my grandfather. I don't know. I'm really curious what he was in his head.
Basically, for me, it was like, I just don't care. I don't want to be Snoke's puppet. I don't want to be Vader. I don't care about Jedi or the Sith. I want to be me. And so
that's sort of how I'm leaning too. Maybe we'll swing back to that in a second here, but let me ask Tech what your first impressions were of the film. Let me ask first, mate, have you seen it once or multiple times at this point?
I unfortunately only had the time to see it once.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I really wanted to see it more times because I was really confused by the film.
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
I was sitting in the movie theater watching at this huge screen and sitting there like, what just happened?
Yeah.
I was really confused, and at this point I'm not even sure if I liked it.
Really? Okay. Yeah, no, well, we were talking earlier about it seems to be a little bit split at this point. Even in chat, I think it was about 50-50, but I think, see, we're still on our first viewing, but it seems like the more you see it, the better people are considering it. But yeah, that's really interesting, Tech. I see a lot of interesting comments in chat regarding Adam Driver. Did anyone else think that Adam Driver stole the film?
Yes.
Acting-wise?
Yes.
You did, Donna?
It was amazing.
What was the question? I didn't hear it. What?
Oh, no problem there, Ben. And let me throw this out to chat generally too. Let me know, if not Kylo, if not Adam Driver, let me know what other character you did. The question was, Ben, do you think Adam Driver as Kylo Ren stole the film acting-wise? Because I almost feel like, in a lot of ways, he had Actually, I won't say he had the most important role. There's some Rey stuff and Luke stuff we'll get into. But did you think Adam Driver stole the show acting wise, Ben?
Oh, he's definitely. I think he. I mean, I really. When I first saw The Force Awakens, it was after a really ill-conceived, idea of going and doing a whole marathon. So when I saw it, I was just like, oh my God, I'm tired. I've been up since 4 a.m. So when I saw The Force Awakens, I just thought, what is up with this Darth Millennial BS? He is just, And then when I watched it again, I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot here. He really layered and really amazing stuff in Force Awakens. His character was really, if you just, I really gave it short shrift initially, probably because I didn't absorb it. I was so tired or whatever. But I think he's just character, and he's not phoning it in at all. I mean, he knows he's down. I mean, he's a method actor. I mean, it's something that's been known of him, which is, and he has it down, I think. I also thought it was funny kind of how the Saturday Night Live thing turned around there. He's just like, when he was in disguise, like, oh, I hear Kylo Ren has an 8-pack or something like that, and then he's all, like buff and shirtless in the picture, and I thought, oh, that's kind of humorous little nod to that little.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Does anyone, if anyone, jump in here if you think maybe if you have something to say about Adam Driver, but if you guys are.
Oh, I thought he was amazing.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
No, he was absolutely freaking phenomenal. For what it's worth, I also think that the actors that really killed it were Adam Driver, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher.
Yes.
I mean, all three of those just completely knocked it out of the park. Especially that monologue where Luke was talking about the hubris of the original Jedi. And how, now everybody romanticizes them now that they're extinct and all that.
I'm going to say, I'm going to add another character who knocked it out of the park. R2D2 with that Leia message. Just so spot on.
That was a cheap move, R2.
Yeah, that one was a bit. I was doing pretty good with the whole Carrie Fisher thing up until that point, but it's funny. I thought it would be a bit more emotional, but again, I was along for the ride. I saw like Princess Leia instantly. I said it in my review, but she did good in episode 7, but this one, Princess Leia, was like, it was so good. She was like, it's hard to put into words, but it did feel like the Princess Leia of the original trilogy, like just awesome. Like she was the general. It was really good.
She definitely had a commanding presence and a powerful gravitas in this one, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that was a good top 3 there, Andrew. I think that I would be remiss to try to throw out a better 3 acting-wise, but should we get into Luke at this point? I think that's the next big direction to go to, unless we should just bypass over Luke and maybe skip to a more important character like DJ. But what do you guys think, DJ? Or?
I would be happy to talk about Luke because obviously Luke is the most divisive thing about this movie.
Yes, for sure,
and
for sure.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to point out my thoughts on it. I'm not saying that anybody that hated the bit of Luke, you're not wrong, and I'm not right. But also, you're not right and I'm not wrong. It's all about opinions and your interpretation of the character. So it's not like.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of it, Andrew?
I loved it, and I understand where people are coming from. But I mean, imagine if the prequels came out first, and then we got Episode 5 Yoda. That's a completely different character. Original trilogy Yoda is a completely different person from prequel trilogy Yoda. They're a completely different person.
Oh, I see what you're saying. From trilogy to trilogy.
One is puppet and the second is.
He was a puppet in the original theatrical releases.
And he was a puppet in this one too.
For some of it,
with Parkinson's or something. I mean, I know they had to add the ear wiggle to the digital puppet to make it look right, and this time they had the regular puppet. He was like, oh, they got that ear wiggle really down pat.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let me just jump in quickly. I see we have a super chat from the Hasselhoff, which is a great name. Finn subplot killed hundreds of rebels, and Luke too. Yeah, I guess in the end that Finn. Can we like super quick segue into just Finn for a second? Actually, let's keep that on the back burner. We're doing well on Luke here. I'm gonna keep that Finn subplot in mind here because I think that was probably where the film fell apart a little bit in regards to that subplot. But would you guys agree, and I'm seeing it a lot in chat, I threw out to everybody what they thought of Luke in episode 8. The thing that I'm hearing the most about Luke in this film was it wasn't Luke from the OT, which you were just saying, sort of the dichotomy there, Andrew, with Yoda between trilogies. But coming from the guy who thought that Luke was gonna be very low at the beginning of this movie and then work his way up to being like the hero like he was in episode 6, let me throw this out. Did you guys think that, one, Luke felt different, or quote unquote, the thing I see the most, they ruined Luke? Or did you find that there was something in Luke that, yes, he started low, but it made sense and you could see the arc by the end of the movie? I'll just throw that out general. And it doesn't have to. Sorry, go on.
I think what happened is, you have to take people were really used to the main trio being huge and continuing their adventures in the EU. The Legends material, it was, they were the main characters. There wasn't an attempt to hand off, you didn't have Harrison Ford wanting to be done with the character. You didn't have Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher who were like, we're going to do this, but we want to have it done in 5 days shooting or whatever. They don't, the reality is you had business decisions that were these characters. We don't want them to be the focus. We want them to be there to provide legitimacy, to hand over the torch. We do not want to have a Luke Skywalker adventure. Those are going to be for books written in between now and then. I think what fans wanted was, the old gang back together. And I think the reality is if you went in wanting that, and it's a valid thing to want, but if you went in wanting that, you were going to be disappointed. I went in thinking they're going to really, and the fact that Leia got taken out for half of the movie, it was like, these actors didn't probably want to have huge roles, integral roles. They were going to be there, they were going to have stuff in, but the reality of the real world intruding on the fantasy is that, in books you can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about whether actors want to do it or not. And the reality is going in, they're not going to use Luke much. They're going to do something interesting. They couldn't have made him too overly heroic because then he would have been too involved in stuff. And I think the way they did it is probably one of the few ways they could, given the real world dynamic of what they wanted to do. They wanted to have this be a handoff to the next generation. And so if you make it the Luke movie, then that you really don't do that so well. And so I wasn't really expecting anything different. I mean, did they ruin him? I mean, I was a little bit disturbed by the whole, he was going in there to execute him. That was kind of like, whoa, really? But otherwise, I guess I don't know. I think the problem is everybody's hate is that they were wanting something different, and I kind of think it was foolish they should have known better than to want that because they knew they weren't going to get it, or they should have known they weren't going to get it. That's my thought.
That's really interesting. What did anyone else think about Luke in general?
I didn't think he felt the same, and not necessarily because he didn't become this, superhero Luke that saved the day or whatever. Core parts of his character were not the same. He wasn't even honest anymore. I mean, what kind of Luke is that? When we first meet Luke in A New Hope, yeah, he's whiny, but he's also a very what you see is what you get kind of person. And when we see him in The Last Jedi, Rey has to use Force insight to tell the difference between what Luke is telling her and the truth.
Yeah, see, I think just reading what chat's saying, I think the chat will agree 100% with you there, Donna, that in that sense, and again, too, that goes back to the whole Luke being completely different from the OT. Here's the thing. I agree 100%. I bought into this. I bought into where Luke was, though. I think I went in and we discussed it quite a bit, that this was going to be a Luke that was at like a complete bottom going forward in episode 8. But I have to say, I kind of really enjoyed that aspect of Luke here, though. I think it was a tragic story for Luke. I had envisioned after episode 6 this whole time, before this new trilogy, that Luke has an arc where he's potentially, if you go with Legends, starts the new Jedi Order and a bit happy, and if there's books along the way. But in this sense, like all Jedi Master before him, it seems like it's a tragic story, and I liked where they ended. Maybe if anyone has any opinions on the ending, like Luke's death.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead, Matthew.
His death. If you were to use a Force illusion, put your whole being into that to shift yourself to another planet, that might take you out. But one scene I'll have to say, and kind of, I know Mark Hamill made some points in there where he's like, this is not my character. It's not Luke. I was like, all right, man, like I kind of get it to a point. It's like, every character can kind of fall to rock bottom eventually. You almost mentioned like it's tragic almost. You're going to get depressed and downbeaten. But the one scene where he did pull out his lightsaber on Kylo Ren is a big iffy moment for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if like the original Luke, he was ready to die so he could turn his father to the light side again. So why would he ever consider even turning on that lightsaber?
Yes. Thank you.
Interesting. Does anyone have any ideas or any opinions? Because I have a couple. This is one of the things I've been working through the last couple of days. But Ben, do you want to jump in on that one?
I kind of think that if you think about Kanan and Ron Coda from the Force Awakens, the Jedi who's like, the world is effed and we've failed and I'm just gonna go drink and be miserable in this corner here until somebody, come on, you gotta, and he was just, I guess I wasn't surprised. It's like he's been broken. He's just in hide. He's like, screw it. I'm gonna do more damage if I try to do anything. I'll just F things up. I want to just stay. If I stay out of it, then maybe I won't make things worse. He was just in a super, dark place, and he probably figured if I try to do anything, it's going to make things worse. So it's better that I don't do anything. I just stay out of everybody's way, not to make it worse. I mean, I think it's heroic, action, at the end to get involved. But and then I think it was just like he's done, So I didn't think it was as weird as everybody seems to think it was. I mean, it was one of the possibilities I expected. I mean, heck, even in it was a 1980s interview or something where Mark Hamill was talking about, doing another trilogy or whatnot. He was kind of mocking the idea. He's like, I don't know, he's sitting on a sand mountain somewhere, you're meditating. I mean, what really would there be for him to do? And I mean, one of the thing that kind of was weird to me was the way that in the crawls of both movies that he was just like, Luke is the key to everything. I'm just like, I was like, how could anybody really think that one person could really be that pivotal? I mean, maybe as a figurehead or as a symbol, but I mean, up to people's expectations. I mean, in universe expectations, forget our expectations. I mean, he's like, and he had to have known, no matter what, I'm not going to be what everyone wants me to be. I can't be this legend everybody's made up. So I really kind of wasn't expecting him to be any different. It actually, to me, kind of resonated perfectly.
That's interesting. What about that two sons scene that we got at the end?
That was pretty beautiful.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah, everything from Luke fading away on Crate till the end of till the credits roll makes me cry my eyes out.
Yeah, no kidding.
The twin sons, the Rey lifting the rocks out of the way of the Resistance, the whole Last Jedi I'm not the Last Jedi. I won't be the Last Jedi.
Which is
every time.
Which is interesting because I mean they really have been in the books, especially been playing up the whole, the Jedi were screwed up. They were hubris. They had too much hubris. They were, that the concept of just only having one side of the Force and the other side is bad is just, that they were gonna. It seemed like they were really going towards a unified thing, and the trailer, the Jedi, need to end and all that. And it's weird how it's like she's got the books, and it seems like no, this maybe the Jedi of the past didn't have it right, but there's still going to be this kind of idea. It doesn't sound like they're going to go in the direction of this, gray. It sounds like it'll probably be a more nuanced view of the Jedi, but the Jedi had lots of flaws, but it doesn't sound like that they were just irredeemable. Which sounded the direction they were going. That we're just like we're done with Jedi. They were messed up, and we're just gonna go forward and make something else. And that doesn't sound like that's what they're gonna do now. And it's kind of like a twist.
Yeah, good point. Going to what you were saying there, Andrew. The two sons didn't hit me as hard as the Luke and Leia moment on Crate, but I was almost more happy for Luke by that point because he was so low. I mean, there's so much you could read into like what that meaning behind it was, but it did harken back to. It's tough to put into words on a live hangout here, but throughout he carried the weight of being that single, like you guys were saying, and I think I've heard Andrew say the same thing about him being like, everyone in the Resistance is like, well, we got to get Luke back in to help save the galaxy again. He had that weight on his shoulders, and then finally, by the end of the movie, the weight was lifted off and passed on. The torch was passed, and he was able to harken back to that innocent Luke that, yes, wanted adventure, but it was that Luke on Tatooine looking at the two sons with no Jedi connection, no path defined for him. So I think it was more of like, somebody said it was like a beautiful scene. I think that was Imperialist in chat there. I think that's how I saw it myself.
I think the dice just did it. I mean, I was just like gulped. When he handed her the dice, I was just like, that was just a really powerful moment.
What did you guys think of the Luke and Leia moment that they had? And more specifically, if anyone has any thoughts, the Kylo Ben Solo is gone.
The time, like when Luke came in with like that hood on his head, actually the first thing I thought of was, that's Jar Jar Binks. Luckily it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a little short for Jar Jar, but good thing that didn't happen, Tech. But sorry, what were you gonna say there?
One moment. Oh yeah, I really liked it. Like also these were these dice or whatever she got from him, like this thing.
yeah, that's unless somebody else thought there had another perspective, but yeah, they were just the dice from the Falcon.
Yes, I was a bit confused on how, like, Leia must have felt that it wasn't real matter in her hands, or was he somehow able to be on this planet in a solid way? Because afterwards, where they shot him, he was left unharmed. So I thought he was like, some kind of ghost that isn't made of any matter.
He wasn't leaving footprints, so I don't think he was actually there in any kind of solid way.
Excellent, Donna. Does anyone else have any? Can someone help me out with that? Maybe someone who's seen it multiple times, or if they were like Donna, maybe paying attention a bit more to that scene. Because I thought, sitting here now, I don't think he was actually on Crate. Does anyone have another perspective?
No, it was an astral projection. I mean,
sorry, I should maybe clarify specifically for that Leia part too.
Oh yeah, that was the same. It was, yeah. I mean, his appearance was one of the giveaways. I mean, first of all, he had the lightsaber that we just before saw was broken in half, so clearly that we knew that wasn't. And it had to have been like an internalized, kind of like a self-idealized picture of himself. Maybe back when he had mirrors. Maybe he hasn't had mirrors on Octo since, but he looked more like he did, or how you kind of have an idealized picture of how you look necessarily, and then you might actually, because he was young, he had had less gray in his beard, his hair was shorter. He looked more like he was at that time when he confronted Kylo than he did, when we saw him on Ahch-To. I was thinking, well, he didn't just go cut his hair and put a little color in his hair and then go and confront Kylo. It's like clearly this is, and I think they did that on purpose to make you realize something's different here. So I think it was intended from the very beginning for you to know something wasn't quite right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, what do you think about the Kylo Rey showdown, or excuse me, Kylo Luke showdown on Crate? Because I've seen some things, perhaps people wanting an actual physical confrontation. Do you like how it played out with the projection and Luke being back on Ahch-To?
I'm kind of mixed on that.
Yeah, same
I've
here.
seen people mixed on it for sure.
I don't know that I would have wanted to see Luke try to fight Kylo. I think it would have looked really bad. Because there would have been a definite difference in ability. Just because, I love Mark Hamill, but he's getting older, so I don't think he would be able to pull off as many moves as he was able to when he was younger,
Definitely not.
Well,
But at the same time, I would have liked to see him maybe, I don't know, use force repulse or something. I don't know.
Well, basically, there is no difference if Luke stays on the island and uses force projection, or if he goes there. In both cases, he fights and dies.
Yeah, but I think I would have liked to see Kylo actually kill him versus him dying from exhaustion.
It was not exhaustion. It would be weird if it was just exhaustion.
Well, okay.
Maybe a mix of the two in some ways, or him just kind of letting go. But
I have a feeling about that. Do you remember how he drink that green milk? He catches salmonellosis.
Yeah. I think now that we're mentioning it, yeah, maybe it was a bit of both, but I think, yeah, he kind of found his peace there.
Yeah.
And purpose.
I don't know, when they cut to him on the, sitting cross-legged on that rock on Ahch-To, I had a sense of, it just felt right. It just was like, because I knew something was, it's like, okay, what are we going to find out here? And then especially when he was like sticking him with the lightsaber and nothing was happening, it's like, okay. And I think that shot couldn't have been, because it's like, well, clearly that's what's happening. And then when they did the shot, I'm like, it was just the exact shot that was in my head of, okay, he's like, because I was clear he wasn't there, something was going on. And I don't know, for me, I don't know about the way that they did it. I don't know. I think it worked better this way. I think people would have been disappointed with the huge knockdown drag out fight because I don't think we would have gotten it. He was there to be stalling. So the whole run at me and then move over here is they really got into a huge lightsaber clash. I don't know that maybe Luke figured he couldn't stall him off that long. Maybe he had to be more dodging and evading as opposed to engaging and clashing. I don't know, but I thought it was a really, really strong scene where he was just sitting there and him fading or him giving up or whatever. I guess it's no different than Yoda. Like my work is done. I can't really do anything else. I'm just gonna merge into the Force at this point because
But I feel like Luke being able to trick Kylo into thinking he was actually there undermines Kylo a little bit. Especially since he just killed Snoke. Right?
I've thought about that too, Donna. Yeah, what it says about Kylo, but yeah, that's an excellent point. I sort of just put it down to him just being like that dark side focused, not even being able to know what was in front of him, but that's a strong point.
But Rey and Kylo were seeing each other in their little, Force connection thing. That was something, and I was kind of upset about those initially, but then I'm like, they're not completely unprecedented. There was the Now, whether they actually physically saw each other or whether it was just a mental image of, but it clearly made it seem like Rey was seeing Kylo standing in front of her because she's like, "Could you put a shirt on?" So I mean, that was happening between the two of those, and there must be some mystery of the Force that understood, in a way that, I mean, it must. Who knows? Maybe it's something to do with the teachings of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to manifesting yourself as a physical entity after death. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's touch on some of these super chats. And again, thanks for the super chats here, guys. We got another one from the Hasselhoff. I agreed. She left the dice, so she knew. Just in regards to Leia, I would have to agree. And I think basically we said the same thing. Let me get your opinion on this one here, guys. Thanks again to Hasselhoff. Sarn Zero. Hyperdrive Kamikaze breaks all reasons to have space fleets, fighters, Death Stars, or any kind of space weapons. The largest plot hole in the movie. Let me see. This is an interesting topic. What do you guys think of because I happen to love the Kamikaze scene with Holdo, which I really liked Laura Dern's performance here, and I think having read Leia, Princess of Alderaan, I think there was a bit less of attention there for us than like, for example, my brother who hadn't read it. But what do you guys think of the Kamikaze scene? But what do you make of the whole, like, I've called it the slow speed chase through space as a bit of a plot device here?
Yeah.
That reminded me of an episode of the Clone Wars. Grievous was trying to get one of the giant ships away, and I think it went into like a 2 or 3 episodes where they were slowly chasing each other. And Malevolence, yeah. So I actually thought they almost took it from that aspect. And that was a good chase. I definitely thought that was well done. But the whole Kamikaze scene is weird, though, man. Like, the super chat was right. Like, that's a big plot hole.
They can destroy Death Star with this.
Float into, giant Star Destroyers, and it would have definitely worked out differently in Episode 6.
Yeah, and did you notice that the Super Star Destroyer was shooting with a ballistic curve? How can he shoot with ballistic curve in space?
I missed the ballistic curve, I have to admit.
There was a ballistic curve. How can you shoot with a ballistic curve in space? I do not get that.
Why would you even do it?
Supremacy, or?
Yeah, supremacy.
Okay.
Why would you even do it? Like, there's nothing you need to, like, there's nothing in between you would want to avoid to hit or something.
Yeah, precisely.
I think the thing for me,
with the Kamikaze attack, you can destroy entire Death Star with one ship. So
yeah,
it's weird.
I'm gonna go with the headcanon that it was just incredibly that they didn't have enough power to actually fully go to light speed, and it was some kind of like half in, half out of light speed that caused it to be possible, and it isn't possible unless you incredibly have that luck going forward. So that's kind of my thing, is it was just one of those, just the right time, just the right decision, and boom. Because otherwise, yeah, you're right. You can't have just anybody doing Kamikaze hyperspace. It's just anything.
Yeah, they really needed like an interdictor as part of that fleet so that didn't happen. But see, the thing that maybe got me is I just, and again too, I have to remember, it's just it's a movie. This was the plot device they used, but there was anything like there wasn't a better aspect to, why didn't they just, that supremacy has how many squadrons of TIE fighters in that? So I don't know. At a certain point, I thought that it was okay, but I just wonder if there was anything else they could have done than just have that worrying about fuel the entire time and having a chase. But
it did definitely feel like speed. We have to keep
speed,
this thing going
yes.
over 55 miles an hour or something. And I was kind of concerned because my biggest complaint about Episode 7 was the small universe feel, and I was thinking, this really, again, it's kind of like we're doing a slow speed chase in space type thing, and I'm like, it's really not that different, I guess, than Empire and the thing with the couple Star Destroyers chasing through the asteroid field. It worked. At first I was kind of like, but then the more I thought about it, it's like, no, it works. It's fine. And I definitely think Rian Johnson kind of brought back a little Leia goes to, she comes with her the gowns, like with the gowns of her mother, as like a decoy to get anyway to break in and whatever. But she's got these gowns, and she makes the comment, I really never knew my mother, but I hope, I just knew her by the things she owned and by what people have said, and I hope one day my granddaughter will wear them if I ever have one. And I'm like, after the scene with Kylo, and it's just like, Ben said, that I was like, oh, just like an arrow through the heart having read that comic book. Like, she's not gonna have grandkids. It was just, if you hadn't read that comic, it was just a really, that's the end of the line. There's, he's gone, and she's not gonna have that happy, ending to her. She might have had grandchildren and been happy, and it was just like, oh, just right out.
Yeah.
I still have kids.
Yeah. Maybe.
Possibly.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he should, but yeah, it seems like those Skywalker genes are a bit iffy. Maybe we'll say at this point, but
let's just say the happy ending we know is going to happen with her. So it was one of those. It was just particularly sad. It was like,
Can I jump in, and maybe this is a good time to bring up this character. I think if anyone can guess it, I think it'd be funny. But sorry, Ben, I was wondering too. Some people are asking in chat, what comic was that you were referencing?
Star Wars number 39.
Okay, perfect. So the main Star Wars comic, 39.
Yeah, there was a shift in the Star Wars comics. Number 1 through 37 was one like editor and creative house, and then he left, and now 38, 39, and 40 start this new Ashes of Jeddah line.
Yes.
And no, never mind. I'm sorry. I totally that's different. It's the Poe Dameron. It's the Poe Dameron one. It's the latest Poe Dameron one.
Oh, okay.
I'm confusing the two books. But no, it's the latest Poe Dameron one. The last two of that series are the ones that deal with Laura Santeca and their attempts to try to get it in. The other ones are actually on Jeddah and Crate. Those are kind of trying to bring those into the earlier timeline.
All right, very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out that Poe comic, but this is probably a good time to bring up this character. This was one that I was probably very high on, I would say, or wanting something good to come out of Episode 7 for this character, and that would be Hux.
Really?
And I think I don't know how you guys felt, but maybe as we're talking about missed opportunities, but it seemed that Rian Johnson wanted to give Hux a certain voice throughout this film that you could see there was sprinklings of it, certainly as being almost like a comedic foil, but in this one, Hux is just pathetic in a lot of ways, in my opinion, and I think maybe, in my opinion, they did a disservice to the character. I could see what they were going for. I wanted a really powerful First Order in this film, though. And I think, for me, in a lot of ways, Hux defines the First Order. But I don't know. I'll ask in chat generally, too. What did you guys think about Hux overall? I'm just quickly, I'm seeing a bunch of maybe non-positive stuff with Hux. But I'll throw it out generally to you guys as well. What did you guys think about Hux?
I don't know. I didn't need another Tarkin. I didn't need a Thrawn out of the First Order. Yeah, he could have been used differently. Do I want him to be used differently? Yeah, maybe. I would have rather. Here's where I stand on it. The guy, the captain of the Dreadnought, now that's a competent First Order officer.
Mm.
And I didn't need
liked
Hux,
him.
and I didn't need Hux to be that because that guy was that for me. Like, he was the face of the First Order. And Hux, I don't know. Yeah, him being turned into basically a comic relief character. I don't know. I don't know where I land on that. Really.
That other guy wasn't the one on Star Killer Base. I mean, Hux gave that awesome speech on Star Killer Base in The Force Awakens. So Hux should have been the one that was like amazing and strong and resolved And, instead he became this like whiny little punk.
But I love how he wanted to shoot Kylo Ren in the throne room. And that was awesome.
Yeah, see now, Hux is whiny little punk. I don't know, I guess I'm not as disappointed with it because I always saw Hux as kind of a whiny punk. I always saw him as the frat boy Hitler youth guy of the First Order.
I always thought he was the CEO's son who got
he's
position, but he's a whiny little brat with no skills, and he got to his position totally undeserved, and he's not, he may be, like the cheerleader rah-rah, but he's really kind of not, he got there because of Brendel and whatnot. I never really pegged him as super confident. I saw him as zealous. He's zealous and very, very, he's a true believer, but it doesn't mean that he's competent. I mean, there may be competent people around him, but I never really saw him as being all that, I guess the CEO's son is the best to come up with.
Yeah.
See, I wanted him to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead there, Donna.
Well, I was going to say, I really wanted him to kind of, I guess, be Kylo Ren's competent equal, except that he didn't have the Force. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to see these two men kind of take on the mantle of being totally committed to being bad.
Right. That's a good point too. I think it speaks maybe not so much for me with the character, but it speaks a bit more to the First Order in general. I think Andrew brought up a good point. Like that Dreadnought, people were saying in chat, that was a really good character. I liked him too. With Hux,
scrambled our fighters 5 minutes ago.
Does that guy have a name yet? Has anyone picked out what his...
Yeah, there is a name that Hux is like, tell Captain.
Yes. Yeah, I'll have to find him because he was the guy.
Kennedy or something like that.
Oh yeah. See, that's
Captain Kennedy.
Yeah, good stuff. I think it speaks more to just the First Order. Man, when I read that opening crawl, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Where I think it said something to the effect of the First Order has gained, New Republic territory within the galaxy. It's a big war going on. That's exactly what I wanted. But I don't know, just in this little bubble, what we got from the First Order seemed a little bit lacking, but again, too, we don't know what's going on. In that sense, I agree with Ben. It did feel like a little bit of a smaller galaxy, but...
I think that the way, there's so many Nazi Germany analogies, here, and it's intentional, but, like, obviously the Nazis, they had commanders and they had military officials who were incredibly competent, and like that commander who, like we should have scrambled their horses and whatnot. But then you have like the higher inner circle, and Brendel Hux and Armitage Hux and Phasma, they're looking out for themselves. They're kind of riding this organization. They're kind of guiding it, but they're really ultimately completely selfish and completely indulgent. Like the Gurus and the, so I think that's kind of what they're going for is, the organization may. The true believers and the generals, that was always the thing is, the German generals were all competent. It was just the upper command was just bumbling and winning in spite of some of their themselves. And I think that's probably what they're going for. Hux isn't a military genius. He has a bunch of them under him, and they kind of help to keep him elevated. But if left to his own devices, he kind of, scurry and, run screaming because he wouldn't know what to do. He's not as powerful of a presence as that general, for example.
What do you think in the sense of maybe not just military? Like he is sort of not the military mastermind I wouldn't expect, but what do you think about using him as like the comedic foil in almost every scene that he's in? Even the scene with Holdo turning around and the, what did we call it? The hyperspace kamikaze. Like he's just like immediately doesn't recognize it, and it's like, oh, of course. Sorry there, Ben. We might be getting a little echo there on your end here, but sorry there, Ben. But yeah, we were like just the comedic. Even by the time they get to the ATM-6, like still he's the comedic foil, I feel like, for Kylo Ren in that scene. I don't know what anyone else thought. If they went, maybe it was more that direction. I don't, like you guys were saying from 7, he didn't strike me as like the best military mind of the First Order, but maybe there was something.
No, I don't think he ever was meant to be the military mind of the First Order. That was Sloane. That was Brendel. That was, you know, it's those types of people that are actually good at it's just like in any sort of evil empire, you know, even in our real world. You look at the Nazis, you've got Erwin Rommel, and then you also have Hermann Goering, you know. Sometimes people get there by actually being good at what they're doing. Sometimes people get there by kissing the right butt, you know.
Yep, that's a good point. And sorry, Ben, did you want to jump in on this one too?
Yeah, I think. Well, there were two things that I think lingered. You know, if I could criticism of Rian Johnson a little bit, were I think the thing with Poe and Hux in the beginning, I think just the beats went on just 1 or 2 beats too long. It's like, okay, we get it. He's playing him and he doesn't get it. But I think that and the pork eating thing, it's like it just lingered on the joke. It's like you get it. It's like we get it. Move on. And I think that both of those scenes where the comedy just went a little longer than it needed to, in my opinion. And I mean, it was funny. I love that Poe, because he did it in Force Awakens. Like, do you talk or do I talk? Or, you know, I mean, it was that whole thing with Kylo Ren. So that's Poe's character, which I love. But it kind of, I mean, Armitage was oblivious for too long. It's like, I mean, I get it. He could be oblivious, but I think that became buffoonish, and I think that went just a little too far. It would have been funny had he didn't get it right away, and then, you know, was like, you know, pissed off and moved on, you know. But I think it just went on just a little too long, and I think had it not, it would have been genius. But I think it just, I don't know.
Go ahead. Sorry there, Donna.
I just think him being the joke of everything all the time doesn't fit into what we know about him, either from The Force Awakens or from Phasma. He's a little more calculating. He's a little more... He may not be necessarily the best military mind in the galaxy, or he may not be physically, you know, the greatest, but he's got a sharpness to him, an intelligence, and a bit of a sinister streak. That
I would say he has that when plotting something where he's plotting it, not necessarily responding to something. Like if he's going, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to backstab this person, I'm going to screw this to get ahead, I can see him being totally cunning in those kinds of ways. But in the other ways where, like, you know, he's in a situation that's being presented to him, you know, planned it out, plotted it out. So I can kind of see it being able to be both, where he's a snake and he will lie in wait and, you know, and bite you once he can. But, you know, throw him into a situation where he hasn't been thinking about it and plotting it out, he may be a complete buffoon. And that's kind of how I see they did it, but maybe that's just my interpretation.
Yeah, Donna brings up I like that. Sorry, what was the word you used there? A sinister streak, Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And J. Cray brings up a good point. Reminds me his like involvement with his the murder of his father. But maybe that gets back to what Ben was saying, because I think Phasma was also maybe the person who was the mastermind potentially. But I mean, all aside, that was just like a small thing, the Hux character. Maybe can we jump into this whole Canto Bight storyline with Finn and Rose?
Yeah.
Let me throw it out to the chat in general too. I'm really interested to hear what everyone thinks about this, but I have to just start off and say that in general, I think I enjoyed Finn a lot more in this episode 8 than I did in 7. Somebody early in chat had said that Finn was better with Rose as sort of the sidekick team than he was with Rey. That might be a bit of a controversial statement, but I definitely liked Poe and Finn a lot more. And I don't think people are all over the place. I even saw with Rose just in chat here, but I liked Rose as well, I have to say. I think that team carried a bit more. It's too bad they were thrown into this Canto Bight storyline for me, but let me throw it out there. What did you guys think of DJ Canto Bight?
The first...
I anybody answers, has anybody read Canto Bight, the book?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm curious,
Yes.
based on your opinions, if you've read the book first or if you haven't, because
No.
that's interesting.
Yes, I have read the book.
I haven't read it yet myself.
I haven't read it either. Hi guys.
Hey, how's it going, Diego?
So,
Very good. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. No worries. Well, maybe after we'll get through the Canto Bight thing here, and then I'm going to ask you about your early opinions. But
Sure.
what did you guys think about that Canto Bight, the scene, the planet Canto Bight, the plot interwoven with Finn and Rose on Canto Bight, MBB-8, but
Yeah, the first
awful.
the first two times I saw the film, for what it's worth, just as the Canto Bight story doesn't really do anything to me, at least, to affect my viewing of The Last Jedi, just because they're completely separate, just fun little stories. They have, like, the only thing that they do for Canto Bight is make you kind of understand the culture of Canto Bight before Rose explains it. That's really all that it does. But the first two times I viewed it, I thought that it was unnecessary and just kind of a waste of time, and it kind of dragged. But on my third viewing, and after I talked with a friend of mine who I went to go see it with, he pointed out to me something that I actually really like, which is that in the original trilogy, and even in like the prequel trilogy, until we got the Clone Wars, we really didn't see who the rebellion or who the good guys were fighting for. Like, we never really got to. I mean, I guess Rogue One did the same sort of thing, but in this movie, we're getting to see why the Resistance fights and who the Resistance inspires.
Okay.
Because of that Canto Bight sequence. So I'm okay with it now.
Be right back, guys. I need to do something. Someone rang the doorbell. I'll be back soon.
all right, yeah, no worries there, Diego. What does anyone else enjoy it? I mean, there was certainly things there to oh, am I muted?
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay, I'm showing up okay, sorry about that. It's showing up as muted on my end, but there was certain things there to be enjoyed. I liked did anyone, I'm sure a lot of people heard that Jabba Cantina in there as well, but I don't know. It's more the plot that it seemed a little bit unnecessary. Like, they stuck those characters there. Like, ultimately, I was talking with, I think it might have been after there, Andrew, but I was discussing with Bessie, perhaps why didn't Maz just send them to break DJ out of prison instead of looking for that guy with the flower on his lapel? It just seemed like that was a bit of a...
Probably because I just wrote it off as Maz didn't know about DJ.
Oh, sorry. I should just clarify. Maybe not literally, but it just seemed like they might have been able to rework the storyline a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a valid criticism.
Like, it just seemed almost like, I don't know. There was just something about that. It just seemed like, why not just initially from the start send them after DJ and go that way? But
To me, it kind of seemed tacked on it. I mean, they needed to have something because they needed to have some plot, like a B plot to go off, But it definitely, the tone, the feel, it was just got a caper. We've got an Ocean's 11 type, and it was just a different tone. I mean, it worked because you needed to have something. I don't know what you would have had, but and I think the big thing was we've got war. We've got the typical Star Wars lived in beat up universe, and then all of a sudden we're back to the equivalent of Coruscant and its glitziest during the prequels. And it was a jarring thing that you had we go from this grungy war scenario to this fabulous Las Vegas equivalency, and and it was just, I guess it was a little bit jarring, but I mean they explained why they needed to do it. I mean, they had to do something other than just sit there and wait for them to run out of gas, I suppose. So they needed to have something to drive it, but I wasn't offended by it, but I wasn't thrilled by it.
yeah. I think that's a good point for where I was too. And that said, I mean, I definitely liked Finn. It definitely wasn't anything character based. I just wish there was not a simpler story, but I think they could have changed it around a little bit. Anyone else have any thoughts? Maybe perhaps on DJ as well, or?
Ooh, I definitely DJ is my new favorite character.
Yeah, there you go.
I love him. He reminds me of Hondo a little bit. You know, he's like, all right, I'm on your side, but no, I'm not. And I got some money, so I'm on your side again, but I've re-switched. But he just had a lot of personality, and he stuck with me.
I think he's harder edged than I think Hondo has that redemptive. I mean, he'll screw you over, but I mean he doesn't necessarily mean you will. I think this was the character that people kind of poked on. Maybe he was he'd sell you out and wouldn't care. Hondo, I think might kind of be bothered by it. I actually talked to Jim Cummings when he was at the local Comic-Con, and Hondo isn't all bad like that. DJ, I think, was just like, you don't matter to me, screw you. I'm going to make money.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't think he would have given a second thought, honestly.
I did like the character as well. Like, I liked DJ as a character. I didn't really see anything wrong. I thought he was great, to be honest. I thought he had an interesting arc. I almost wish, though, that he had that Han Solo finds his, true voice and calling. I wonder if we'll see DJ again, if he'll pop up in episode 9.
I mean, what is that name just a placeholder? It was never referenced in this. I mean, what do we know? Is that his name, or is that just like a placeholder?
I think that's his name, unless I'm mistaken.
No,
okay.
He's credited. They never mention his name in the film.
Oh,
like
yes.
Join or something, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. There was a part where
I didn't know if it was a code name that they just, it was like a code name when they said, "Oh, this is the character. We're just gonna, does DJ stand for something? Is it actually his name, or is it just something they told us, like what was Snoke? Snoke was like, what? This no one knows exists or something, a joke like that. I don't know. I just wondered if DJ is the canonical name or if he's just a no-name smuggler. I didn't see his name in the credits, so I don't know.
I must have looked on IMDb or something at some point, because I always took him as his name being DJ, but I'm not sure if it was referenced now that Andrew's mentioned it in the actual film as DJ. But I don't know. There was something about the scene of them freeing the animals where I was just like, ooh, what's going on? What's going on here now with this helicopter chase? But that said, I mean, I think from just going by chat, I think it might have been people's least favorite aspect, just the whole Canto Bight scene as scenes in the film, but it's not the biggest deal in the world for me. Does anyone have anything else with Finn or Poe? Because I thought they really did a better job with in episode 8 than in 7.
I think they should let him go, man. Like, he should have sacrificed himself. I would have felt that would have been a good redeeming end for Finn's character. I didn't really enjoy him the last couple movies, honestly.
This is sorry, Matthew. This is Finn or Poe?
Finn.
Oh, Finn.
I agree.
Yeah, I wanted to see him sacrifice himself for the good of the.
Yep, just good old-fashioned altruistic. Here I go. Like, this is my end.
Because the entire romance is so forced. I don't like it.
See, now for me, the Finn Poe. Can you tell what I've shipped?
The Finn Poe thing would explain his reaction when she kissed him.
Yeah. But no, the Finn Rose thing, like, that's actually like the most natural romance plot that I've seen in Star Wars. I didn't feel forced at all to me. So that's interesting.
Really? Yeah. Oh, come on.
The problem is that everyone sees romance differently, based on your own romantic relationships and your own experience with significant others. So for me, it just two people coming together and then kind of affecting one another, like Finn and Rose did, is exactly how my fiance and I are now together. Like, that was our first interaction, is we met and then we started affecting how each other think. And then,
she shocked you as well?
Yes. Yes. She did tase me for trying to run away, but send help.
I liked. I thought that it was. I thought it was good too. I
That
liked where
sounds like a good drinking story.
like the romance there was fine for me. I think that Matthew brought up a really good point. Did anyone think that that was going to be the end for Finn? Because I thought that that would have been a great out for him there too, but not just for Finn. I think if they if Rose would have died there too, I thought it would have been
I wanted Rose to die on the supremacy. She can be killed by Phasma, and Finn can die during the on the crate.
On crate, yeah.
And they're both dead, and everybody else is happy.
No, I thought for sure Rose. I was like, she's gonna sacrifice her sister's dead. She's gonna try to save him, and then she was gonna die to save him, and then that would be it's like I felt like she was at that point. What else did she have to live for? She was gonna save him, and then sacrifice herself. I was kind of surprised when it didn't go down that way.
Me too. Yeah. See, I thought it mirrored very well to what her sister did at the beginning. It almost showed like that little linear between the two sisters. They were very, heroic and brave in that sense, I guess. I thought it would have worked. I thought Finn, I didn't see dying because I didn't know if he was going to stop that, whatever that monstrosity was they were using. I said in the review, I thought I heard they called it like miniaturized Death Star tech. Finn threw that out, but is that what he said?
Yes, that's what he said.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think that Finn was going to get there in time, but I loved it when Rose came in, and I really thought that would have been fine. Let me know in chat too if you guys would have thought that it would have been good for Rose to go out that way. It seemed from what I've seen so far that the sacrifice was fine.
Quick question: has anyone started reading the Cobalt Squad novel?
Not yet.
I got the Audible version like the day after I saw the movie.
Yeah, see, I tried to pick it up, but I guess up here in Canada, the publisher had a 2-day hold on it. So I went on, it would have been Friday. So I went and they wouldn't sell it to me. They had like 26 copies in the back, but yeah, they wouldn't give it to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I would have jumped into Cobalt Squadron probably already myself, but that was disappointing.
I would have kind of liked if they had tried to foster some kind of pseudo-romantic thing between Finn and Rose. It's like when you have two characters, they don't always have to have romantic tension. You can just have two characters of the opposite sex who just, I don't know. It just, to me, it seems like seriously we're going to try to do this romance thing. I kind of was just like, I just wish that it just, they'd have been like, just, have gone through struggle with each other. But just because you go through struggle with somebody doesn't suddenly mean, oh my gosh, I think I've fallen in love with you. I'm kind of like, yeah, you're kind of old, I guess. I don't know.
I definitely get what you're saying. I don't think they had to do it, but I don't know. There's something that Andrew said that seems a bit true to me, where it was like the most natural of the two, where it built like the Padme Anakin seemed it's the way relationships are built. And even Han and Leia isn't a traditional story of romance, I would say, but
well, it's considered highly rapey today. I mean, that scene in the Falcon is like considered really no good.
Yeah.
Speaking of Star Wars romance, my cousin told me later on that he saw like sparks fly between the Vice Admiral Hardo and Leia. Did anyone else notice something like that? Because it kind of passed over my head when he made me that comment.
No, I didn't catch that.
No.
I caught that as two old war veterans essentially having a moment.
In Leia, Princess of Alderaan, they were friends, kids. I mean, they did establish that Holdo was more pansexual, and not limiting herself to just men. They pointed that out. That was a point in the show. But I mean, here in the book. But I think it was just childhood friends. Honestly, based on her interpretation in the book, she was like a Disney, a kind of a bubbly Disney character.
Yeah, now I regret not having read Princess of Alderaan. I would have totally known who Holdo was then.
Yeah, that's okay. The thing is too is I was expecting a bit more of what's the right word? She seemed a bit more. I mean, she was much younger, but a bit more out there. I'll say a bit more Episode 5 Yoda, Episode 8 Yoda.
She was really spacey in the book. I mean, she was really spacey.
Yeah, I liked the Holdo character. Did anyone else? How did everyone feel about that? I mean, we all read. Basically, most of us have read Princess of Alderaan, so I doubt that people would have been fooled too much by that misdirection, I guess. But I liked Holdo.
I liked her. But I don't know. I kind of wish they had gone ahead and kind of passed the torch on to her rather than her being the one to hyperdrive Kamikaze through the supremacy.
Yeah. I went to see the movie with total we were 6, right? 6 people. Most of them were either friends or cousins of mine, and one of them told me that she had a low-key crush on Vice Admiral Holden, that she was crying when she did the kamikaze and that she couldn't enjoy the scene. And I'm like, and then she started arguing. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it might have just been a bit of feedback there, Diego. But
Okay.
Now that I have you here, Diego, let me ask you what your initial thoughts were. I didn't get a chance to hear how you enjoyed or maybe didn't enjoy it. What did you think about Episode 8?
Well, how do I put this in short terms? I liked it for overall. I did not expect several things to happen that ended up happening. And I think that for a while, I wasn't sure exactly how I felt about those things that I didn't expect. But then I started writing down my thoughts on the matter after watching the movie a second time. And I think that for me, at least, in retrospective, the thing that I found interesting is that The Last Jedi is actually a film about disappointment. And I'm increasingly convinced that they went that route to fulfill a few very specific purposes. To summarize what I wrote down, because I wanted to share it with you guys, story-wise, Rey is disappointed in Luke, who is disappointed in himself, and Kylo, who is disappointed with Luke and Han and Leia, and later Rey, then definitely Snoke, who is disappointed in Kylo, while Leia is disappointed in Poe, and Poe is disappointed in Haldo, and Haldo is disappointed in Poe, and Rose is disappointed in Finn, and Finn is disappointed in the status of war, and later war profiteering between both sides, and so on. The film itself even deliberately disappointed its audience by not delivering on quote-unquote the goods. For instance, I wanted Luke to mess people up with his green lightsaber, and I was disappointed. I wanted Luke to carry on into the next film, and I was disappointed. A whole bunch of us wanted Rey's backstory to be elaborated and related back to the lore of the franchise in some way, and we are all disappointed if that's what we wanted. A whole bunch of us
wanted... Snoke is not vicious, so we are disappointed.
Exactly. I was going there. A whole bunch of us wanted to know where Snoke came from, and if he was actually someone else from lore, and we were all disappointed. And so on. You see my point. But here's where I think it's important. The Last Jedi is not the exact fan experience you're looking for. And yet, it was probably the most important Star Wars movie in many years, because while the story is not about scratching that specific fan itch, it has an arguably more decisive purpose that will carry the franchise for years to come. It's about taking this pop cultural phenomenon into new, uncharted territory. But at the same time, it still ends up being entertaining by still being a relatively good Star Wars movie with tons of laugh and cries, family drama, space battle, and force visions and lightsaber action, good acting, and good music. It still gives their viewers their money's worth on that account, and then a bit more. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But then again, no film is. It has sagging pace for the first half, jokes that don't land, a few genuine missed opportunities. For instance, Phasma again, Snoke's backstory. Apparently, Leia and Ben's relationship isn't going to get closure, though that's not really the filmmaker's fault. And it's probably a little long for general audiences. But while it's important that I and all the other people that analyze these movies address these flaws, I'm not going to dwell on those things too much because I know I don't have to. For the most part, I love it because for the first time in a long time, Star Wars feels very new to me. And as far as I'm concerned, that's exciting.
All right, nice. Excellent there, Diego. Thanks for that.
Oh. Here's a question. I mean, Luke, Empire Strikes Back, I mean, Star Wars was kind of like a self-contained movie. The fact that they added it didn't really, it wasn't like setting up stuff to have there be a sequel. But when they did, I mean, people weren't expecting. I mean, when Luke, when Vader's Luke, I'm your father. I mean, people were like, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting, or it's almost like, I don't know. I guess I wonder if you have a certain number of movies where people just are going to have expectations. I mean, nobody had expectations for Empire. They didn't know what to expect. When they got whatever they got, they didn't go, oh, well, I thought this is what should have happened. Or I wonder if it's just time. Is it that if Star Wars Empire came out today, would we be like analyzing that what happened in Empire as much, or would we, or is it a function of you have one or two movies, but when you get 7 movies, then people start to have expectations going in, because I went in expecting nothing, and my expectations were exceeded greatly. I think the built-up expectations are kind of kill things. I tried to avoid spoilers, and I just kind of went in going, I'm really curious as to where they, what they salvage from, from 7, because 7, unlike A New Hope, wasn't a complete story. It was they with 4 they didn't know they were going to be able to make 5, but with 7 they knew they were going to make more, so they could leave little bits unfinished. And I don't know. I wonder if just these expectations of things, whether it be Star Wars or superhero movies or whatever, are just kind of killing the entertainment value. I don't know.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was talking with a few of my pen pals the other day about Empire Strikes Back and expectations and all that. He mentioned that back in the 1980, when the Empire Strikes Back got released for the first time, we didn't really like. In the present day, Empire Strikes Back is one of the best, the most popular Star Wars movie of them all. But it didn't start that way. Many people were didn't really like the original reception for the first viewing. It's with time that it has aged well, the movie. That's what many people, that's the impression that I've gotten, and he mentioned it. And if you if you check the Wikipedia page, that's about it. So, since I like Quora a lot, the Q&A website, I asked this question and I got a few interesting answers. I asked, will The Last Jedi be another example of a Star Wars movie that isn't very appreciated in its original run, but ends up becoming more popular with time, like it happened with Empire Strikes Back? I thought it was an interesting question to ask. And one of my favorite answers there is the following. I strongly expect it will. A large majority of complaints towards it were built on the very same false expectations that the movie was designed to criticize. In the absence of those expectations and the context of the finished story, I imagine people would come around. In the meantime, expect a lot of people being butthurt that their pet theories and fanfic contrivances weren't true. I'm looking at you, Plagueis, Vitiate, and the Holy Snoke.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, Diego, too, whoever posted that, because just looking at some of the chat, and not even just the chat here, but just in general, it seems like expectations, maybe what people thought they were going to get, was one of the main culprits. But you know what, guys, can anyone guess what we haven't talked about yet, and maybe is a good point to end on? Or
Phasma falling into the Sarlacc pit, she's going to come back with a scar on her face?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if she does come back, but we haven't really dove into Rey at all yet.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? I think for me, quickly, I won't poison the well too much here because I want to hear what you guys think, but I think if you put it, some of the Rey stuff was a little less interesting for me after the fact. Although there's a lot we can dive into on the dark side cave scene if we're considering it that. But as compared to like the Snoke, Luke, Kylo, Rey's a little less interesting for me. But what did everyone think about Rey from Episode 8?
I'm curious what Andrew says because
we'll start with Andrew.
I thought she was kind of bland in this one. I'm hoping that there's something I missed.
Should we? Is it fair to start with you, Andrew? Is that cool?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah, dive in, Andrew.
Yeah, I still loved Rey in this movie. I appreciated that they went in a little bit more. We got to really delve into the flaw of her obsession with her parents, which I'm excited about. Probably one of my favorite scenes in that isn't within those last 15 minutes is her dark side cave moment with the mirrors and stuff.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I love the visuals of it. And I've seen a couple people being upset, it's like, oh, it's just like the hotel mirror or whatever thing, but the infinity mirror thing. But I thought it was cool. And
I wasn't exactly sure the symbolism, and I have to rewatch it again because I'm like, what's happening? What is this meaning? I mean, it wasn't quite the overt as Luke cutting off Vader's head to his own face. That's okay. That's kind of overt. It's like, well, what were they getting at with the mirror thing? I wasn't sure.
The way I saw it was, it's just. I thought that it was. I thought that the multiple Reys was more, in part, how she's been stuck on a treadmill when it comes to her goal, which is finding her parents, and also it represents how many paths she still has that she could take. Now, with that being said, I think the big part of the symbolism in that moment was how once the mirror actually cleared up and it just showed her, I think that was the big bit of symbolism, which is that she's her own parents, obviously not really, not like biologically, but she raised herself. She made herself. She turned herself from being this scared little kid into what she is now becoming in this trilogy.
That's a very good point. And one of the things that I actually liked a lot about that scene was that, I was expecting, I think I was expecting more a family reveal or something, not a Skywalker one, but something else. When it turned out it was nothing, which was a possibility, I personally consider that her parents were not particularly relevant. I was like, so this ties all the way back to some of the very early Star Wars stories that said that at the end of the day, part of the theme was that anybody could save the galaxy if they tried hard enough.
And for what it's worth, I am so happy that Rey's parents are a nobody, that they're nobodies. I am so happy about that. As much as I totally understand people that love the Chosen One prophecy and the mythology behind that. That's one part of the prequels that just never quite sat right with me. I don't remember who I was what review I was watching or whatever, but somebody said something along the lines of how it's the prequels kind of told us that you need the princes and the princesses are the ones that the chosen ones are the ones that are meant to save you. The peasants and the paupers, you can't do anything. You are just there to be the motivation for the princes and princesses to do their heroic deeds. Whereas now with Rey's parents being nobodies, that it just it's so much more inspiring to me, and that feeds into Broom Boy at the end of the film. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you can either become the hero that the world needs now or raise a hero that the world needs now. That's what matters.
Yes, it's a self-made hero. That's more important.
Yeah, and it's Anakin as well. Anakin's parents didn't matter as much. Were you gonna jump in, Ben?
Yeah, I didn't really, I wasn't really aligned with any camp on whether it was Kenobi or Vader, Palpatine, whatever. Not Vader, Skywalker. I was just like, they made such a big deal of it in 7. We need to have some, and this was the only way that it could be a nobody, and yet still validate the build-up that it was somebody. Because it was just like they made it that her parents are coming, her parents are important, and it's like this is the only way that they could have them be nobody and justify all of that build-up. And I thought it was like that's really good, and I agree with Andrew. I like that they're nobody, and people are saying, well, Kylo Ren was lying to her. It's like, no, I think she realized, she saw the truth in what he said.
Well, the bit about. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, I think that she realized, she's like, yeah, he called her out. He's like, you've been like denying what you know to be true, and she's like, damn, it wasn't like there was doubt in her mind, and she still thought her parents were something, were coming back or whatever. It's like she suppressed it. It was like he said, hey, this, I know you're suppressing this. You got to face the reality, and I'm like, it was pretty satisfying. I feel.
Yeah, good point.
Hey guys.
What were you gonna say there, Andrew?
What I was gonna say was, how some people are still saying like, oh, Kyle was lying to her. To be totally honest, obviously I have the advantage of seeing the movie 3 times now in a total of 72 hours, but she's the one that admits it first. Like, he doesn't tell her who her parents are. He kind of elaborates, but she's like, but she's the first one that goes, they're nobody. And then he goes, yeah, exactly. They were drunks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and he wasn't able to get into her mind in TFA. So I don't think that he's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that, does everyone else sort of believe Kylo? I've only seen it once, and that scene, and the Yoda scene is a bit of a blur for me, to be honest, at this point. But I had always, I think, kind of bought Kylo's line at that point. I don't know, maybe exactly. They're necessarily junk traders or anything like that. They very well could be, but I do think just in the scheme of things, like Rey says. And I had forgotten that was the sort of the timeline on that, Andrew, that they are technically, quote unquote, nobody.
The only reason I believe Kylo is because if it turns out that this was a massive misdirection that they're going to clear up in the next movie, people will never let J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson live that down. Never.
I will be so upset if J.J. Abrams is like, no, I don't like that.
Exactly. They're going to put in their headstones the person that misdirected the whole planet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you, Glenn. I didn't really exactly remember the timing of that she said that first, but I also felt that it is different than what happened in The Force Awakens, where he's like trying to intrude on her mind and trying to like invade. I feel like their force touch was almost like a mind melt, not a mind melt, but like it was almost like a I don't know. Do you remember the thing in the Dark Crystal where the Gelflings touch hands and all of a sudden they have a mind melt type thing and sharing memories? I feel like it's a different situation than what's in the interrogation. I mean, they were kind of communicating willingly between each other in a way that they weren't in that scene where he was trying to force his way into her head. So I kind of see it as he kind of saw the truth that she was trying to hide.
Yeah,
it was a little bit more intimate than him trying to force himself on her in that scene in Force Awakens.
Yeah, that's a good contrast for sure. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
One thing, someone in the live chat, Rebel Commander, is asking us, who do you guys ship Finn with, Rose or Rey?
I don't care. Like, I don't know. It's not like I'm hardcore against Rey having a romantic interest, but I don't know. I know that Rebel Commander's asking about Finn, but I'd preferred him to go with Rose, just because I liked for one thing, I did like Rose's and Finn's dynamic in this film in The Last Jedi, and also I don't know, like I've just got a gut reaction to the idea of Rey having a romantic relationship, like she's too busy for that kind of crap. It's like, well, how Luke was too busy for that kind of crap in the original trilogy.
I think there are a lot of people who would be upset if, you know, Rey set up to be the super strong independent character, and then they're like, oh, and now we got to, like, you know, pair her off with something. I think there's a lot of people who are just like, you know, you don't need to have a strong female character and then have to give them a love interest. I mean, it may be her, you know, her work or her, you know, living for the rebellion or whatever. You know, I think that a lot of people would see that as a letdown. You create the strong male, you know, the strong female character, and then you have to pair her off. I don't think they'll do that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you do have that aspect of it. I don't know. For me, it doesn't even feed into like what her gender or her physical sex is. It's just the main hero in the saga in the original trilogy was Luke, and Luke was kind of interested in romance a little bit in A New Hope, but after that I'm too busy for that kind of crap, man. I gotta save the galaxy. Like,
exactly. That's why he ended up, well, not the only reason, but that's why he ended up telling Dr. Afra to leave him alone in the comics.
Well, I'm definitely different. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna just die if Rose and Finn aren't together by the end of episode 9. So,
you know,
all right, that might not be true, but nonetheless.
If someone had asked me this question, like, who do I ship Finn with or Rey with? No, who I ship Rey with during before I watched The Last Jedi, I think I would have said Finn, because the main idea of putting the main heroine that I happen to like for the most part in The Force Awakens with someone that committed patricide didn't really seem right with me.
Oh.
Especially the father being someone I really liked for a long time. But now that I watched The Last Jedi, I think I'm happy with the idea of Rey just staying single for the rest of the trilogy and Finn with Rose, because quite frankly, I don't think neither Finn nor Kylo deserve to be with her.
Very
So I meant to bring this up earlier when we were talking about Leia and Admiral Holdo. Okay, let's fantasy canon fiction here for a second. What would you? They had thought, well, let's shoot this a different way and have Leia pilot the ship into the thing. It's like, I've had enough loss. I'm going to sacrifice. If they had, you know, filmed that to knowing that Carrie Fisher passed, she can't be in the further movies. If they had somehow done that, would that have felt satisfying? Would that have been, you know, felt cheap? Just in your head, if they had swapped Holdo and Leia for that last bit,
I would have been
what would you think if they'd have done that?
I think that I would have liked that more. That would have made it a better movie for me. In part because unfortunately we don't have Carrie Fisher anymore, and I'm sitting here going, what in the blasted hells are they going to do about episode 9?
Simple, they're going to make a time skip.
Yeah, that's
die in between.
Yeah, and I don't like that idea. I'm still like, I'm more open to it than I used to be. Like just after we lost Carrie Fisher, I was completely against the idea of an off-screen death or between movie death for Leia, but I'm more open to it now. But I still am not happy about the idea.
Yeah.
And I would have rather, I would have rather if they would have changed it a little bit in that having Leia do that hyperspace attack.
Well, I have guys, I just had a thought. I know I just said that I am fine with Rey being single and all that, and that I don't think Finn and Kylo, either of them, are a good fit. But I just had a thought. What if we would have gotten a Lost Star style romance, but instead of the two main characters, it was Rey and Kylo, without the different. I just thought of a fanfic plotline in my head, and I'm like, Huh.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I don't know. I haven't thought too much. With Rey, I'm kind of leaning more. She's with what Andrew was saying earlier. She's probably going to be the Luke of this trilogy. Just too much on her plate. But I don't know. I have to think of it a little bit more here. But
think of the force potential. I mean, you in essence have, at least the way it seems they're building it up, you in essence have, the son and the daughter.
oh,
And you just think from a force perspective, if you got together and had a kid, I mean, what kind of versions of the force would that be?
What do you guys thought of the Leia's so-called Mary Poppins moment?
I don't know. I think I don't know.
Hated it.
I
we
initially
needed someone to say it. Yeah.
I initially really liked it. It felt, yeah, it is a Mary Poppins moment, but I'm okay with it being a Mary Poppins moment. Like I freely admit that it is kind of goofy, but it fit into this character's theme of being more fairy tale-ish than most Star Wars films. And Leia is a princess of the stars, and seeing her fly amongst the stars was really not in the traditional sense, but romantic to me. I don't know. It was very pleasing visually for me. It was very moving for me. I don't know.
Well,
And I think the problem is that, sorry, just real quick. I think the problem is that that's a completely subjective thing, and nobody's going to be able to convince me that it's dumb looking, and I'm not going to be able to convince anybody that hated it it's not dumb looking.
I hated it on the beginning. Now I don't mind about it, but I don't think that it's dumb looking. I like how it looks.
Oh, nice.
But I think it's just weird. In space, she should be able to survive like for 15 seconds.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Donna?
I was going to say, we've talked about in the past how I have certain moments in The Force Awakens where I literally cringe, even though I've seen it several times now. I mean, well over 40.
Nice. Wow.
I didn't have any cringy moments. I was feeling really good about this, even though there were little parts that I wasn't necessarily getting behind in the movie. Like at that point, really, the only thing that I was kind of hating was how they were treating Hux.
Wow.
But
Phasma.
I wasn't having any of the really cringy moments, and then Leia flew through space, and I was like, oh no, here it comes.
It was just a bit of a jarring thing, I think, more than anything. Maybe I see people in chat too, a little jarring, but
yeah.
My issue was more just special effects. I thought it was fine. I mean, it was like I was like, are they going to totally throw away the rest of the footage? Is this going to be the end? I mean, I was kind of like, wow, wait. But really, the big thing I didn't like is, I mean, she was ramrod stiff, and her, like she was like standing straight. It's like you'd think she'd be more floaty and not a natural standing type position. And then her clothes would have been more like, I mean, it looked like they just filmed her standing or standing on something and then dragged her forward. I think it was more the special effects bothered me, because they wouldn't. If you were floating in space, your clothes would just kind of be, that you wouldn't look like gravity is affecting your robes and all that. I just was more kind of upset by the visual effect, but the scene and how it happened, I'm like, I mean, obviously the legend, she didn't have any force potentials or much. She was a politician, but clearly with from a certain point of view, I mean, Yoda wanted to train her and not Luke, so clearly we knew she had something. I was fine with it, except for just the visual look. I think they probably didn't want to put her through a lot of physical strain of having her in some kind of zero G suit or something to make it look quite right. So they, I guess it's as good enough as they could do.
Yeah. The only thing I like about the Leia space moment was that this was like, for a while now I've wanted Leia to have like a major feat of strength with the Force to put under her belt. This wasn't exactly what I imagined it would be, though. I like the fact that we finally got a wow moment where we're like, well, she's also the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, the bloody chosen one. But at the same time, I have mixed feelings about that.
You know what was cool though? Maybe the space force floating back to the ship wasn't cool, but you know what I loved? And I remembered a little bit from reading Bloodline, but I think Andrew, the last time you read it, had pointed this out. There was like excellent callbacks to Leia just feeling things through the Force, and I really enjoyed that aspect. She felt Luke's death when Luke reached out to her when she was in the medical pod or whatever that was. She felt it there with Kylo. Like that all worked really well. I think if they're gonna allude to Force powers with Leia, for me, that's the best way to do it. I thought that those were some great scenes with Leia as well.
Can we have a moment of silence for Admiral Ackbar, though?
Yes, the unsung hero of the rebellion.
Yeah, that really got to a lot of people too. I see, like in chat, a lot of people were mentioning that the Ackbar thing bothered them.
I honestly didn't know he died at first.
Yeah, it took me. I don't think I did either, to be honest. I might have missed it.
Yeah, that's the only reason why that one Resistance officer or enlisted person was like Admiral Ackbar and the rest of our leadership. and as a hardcore fan, as you know, a very heavily involved fan, yeah, it sucks to lose him. But if you look at the actual like movie series, Admiral Ackbar doesn't mean very much. Like they just kind of threw away. Like they just
so awesome fighting against Thrawn and everything.
Totally agree with you, but I don't know. It all leads into the idea, like what you just mentioned about Legends. It's all fan fiction. Even George Lucas's films are fan fiction. The only difference in between the original trilogy and random fan fiction about the original trilogy on the internet is that one can legally make money off of it. Like in terms of actually the artistic design and the artistic merit of something, there's no difference in between any of it. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean even Star Trek books. I mean, my gosh, they would just write them and they'd have conflicts and everything. And those were written by the same. But not all franchises need continuity. I mean, look at comic books. I mean, all the I mean, it's just a story with this flavor and these characters and I mean, Splinter of the Mind's Eye was, I mean, it's a Star Wars story. It has the same characters. It doesn't fit with anything, but, because they totally went a different way. But, yeah, you're right. There's, it's only who has the rights, to make money on it or, I mean, and we know that 80 years after George Lucas's death or whatever, Disney's still going to make sure it doesn't enter the public domain because nobody's going to make money, the way Disney did from the Brothers Grimm. Nobody's going to do that to Disney.
Maybe like the one thing I would want to end on is maybe just a bit of discussion about perhaps episode 9. But before that, people are pointing out perhaps there are things that we could say about Rian Johnson's shortcomings. I don't know if anyone had any that immediately stuck out, but I did find it. And this was after yesterday with our discussion yesterday, Andrew, but I think the pacing was a bit fast for me at the beginning of the movie, like after that dreadnought attack scene where it bounced back and forth. I don't know if anyone has any, because there are a few things here and there, which we've touched on a few of them already, but does anyone have any like glaring standouts for some shortcomings with this film? Because we have talked about our favorite. Let's start with Andrew, and then we'll go around the horn.
Yeah, for what it's worth, let me preface this with the complete admission to the fact that I am a completely unapologetic Rian Johnson fanboy. I absolutely love the guy's work. I love the guy as a guy. He's just, he is my favorite director that I can think of. Like, if anybody asks me who's your favorite director of anything, not even just Star Wars, but any sort of movies, I'm always going to say Rian Johnson. Now, so that's my opinion. Doesn't mean a damn thing. But with that said, my opinion is that I'm really looking forward to what he does with this new trilogy, because he will be unleashed. A lot of the issues that a lot of people have with this movie is that it messed with Luke, or it messed with the continuity of what they wanted, or whatever. Now that we get to see, I'm looking forward to seeing what Rian Johnson does when he doesn't have to be beholden to pre-existing notions about things in Star Wars. He's just allowed to run wild inside of the Star Wars universe.
I think for me, one of the things that I would say was a bit of a miss was how the story progressed. I like that Rian Johnson doesn't like linear storytelling, and anyone who doesn't do linear storytelling was bound to feel a little bit outside of Star Wars, since Star Wars is very linear in how it portrays the story. But it just felt a little sloppy to me at points. Like, it just didn't feel like it was intentional enough when they jumped back and forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, Donna. I think because I had sort of found the same thing. I wish. Did anyone else? Maybe this was just something that I saw, but it felt like we were flipping back and forth from the Resistance to Luke and Rey on Acto a bit much. I really wanted to kind of have that initial scene with the battle with the Dreadnought, but then really something we've waited 2 years for, really dive into a extended scene. Star Wars has always jumped back and forth. I just watched Empire Strikes Back the other day, so I'm not saying it's too egregious, but it just felt up front a little bit rushed in that sense. Maybe it was just me though.
Well, you guys remember the part in the first full trailer for the movie where Luke was saying out of context, "This is not going to go the way you think." Before the movie began, I talked with my pals where we basically said, well, let's be on the lookout for any scene that would be our first clue that movie is not going to go the way we think. And when it was over, I think we all agreed that it was the part where Luke threw his lightsaber away.
Yeah, what did everyone else think about that?
That was a little over the top. That kind of killed the hype for me at first. Like, and I'm sure J.J. Abrams like shot up in his seat. He's like, "He did what with that scene?" But yeah, I'm gonna go with most fans and say that killed it for me almost at the beginning.
Really, that's so interesting, Matthew. This is the Luke throwing the lightsaber behind him scene, right? Or...
Yeah. Yep.
What did anyone else?
I thought that was a little. I mean, like if he'd have just taken it, like tossed it to the side, and more of just get that out of here. You know, tossing it over his shoulder was almost a little too jokey. I mean, it's the same thing of, you know, this is behind me. I've got, you know, just kind of like tossing it down to the side would have been different. Tossing it over his shoulder kind of had like a kind of a humorous flippancy that I didn't feel was quite right for the moment. But I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but it almost felt like a little jokey. And you know, I think like I said, my biggest criticism of Rian Johnson is, you know, he's got some good ideas, but he's got to trust that less is more sometimes, and just, you know, don't linger on it quite so long. Move on. Yes, people got the joke, you know, and I think some of those things. So it was a little bit weird. I think it was Andrew who mentioned the, you know, the pacing up front was really, really fast, and then you had the kind of slow there on this, you know, slow speed chase through space. There were some like consistency issues throughout as far as pacing, but you know, I mean, they cut back and forth in Empire, as you said, and it was about what I was expecting in that regard.
That's interesting. Did the throwing over the shoulder bother anybody else? It seems like in the chat, people did not like it. Jacob, you as well?
Same here. It should be emotional moment, and it's just a joke.
His hands were even trembling and shaking. It should have been like a very emotional scene. That's Anakin's lightsaber. Like that.
Yeah.
I can't forgive him for that. That's gonna burn me for a while.
I can get behind what Ben says about throwing it to the side emotionally, though. I would have been okay with that.
Definitely, maybe like a more side toss, just like that, instead of just the over the shoulder. That's just.
You know what might have been funny too and worked if he just handed it back. Like if he just like looked at it and then just gave it back to her.
But if he handed it back, if he handed it back, then that's him passing on the he's passing on the legacy. He wants the legacy to die. He doesn't want anyone to rise up and become another Jedi at the beginning of the film.
Water.
Yeah, I destroyed it.
Hey, listen, the only thing I get it. It was a slap in the face for me as a fan when I first saw it. And then once I saw it the second time and really thought about it, I just realized that he's Yoda fighting with R2 over a little torch. You know, like it's just he's gone a little bit weird. I don't know.
You know what's interesting for me? I was almost have the same reaction as Craze Plays in chat there. I have to be honest, I wasn't looking at it in the sense that he's like, this is Anakin's, because I get exactly what you mean there, Matthew. If I was to look at it in that lens, like this is Anakin's, how could he disrespect the lightsaber? I took it as, okay, where are we with Luke? Where Luke was on Acto, it made a bit more sense to me that he would just want nothing to do with it. The thing and I forget who said this, somebody brought this up. Oh, it might have been Jacob here, but I think you guys have touched on it generally too. If you look at that scene, how it ends in 7, like Luke is almost crying and seems like it's almost a sadness with him at the end of 7. And on this one, the exchange is almost one of anger. It seems like the two scenes, like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson had different views on what that scene meant. But I think that more than any type of like disrespect to Anakin's legacy was looking back on it, because I was just, again, like I said, I went along with it initially.
When I saw it, I felt it was kind of like I was watching Mark Hamill, like in past interviews, like I'm done with Luke Skywalker. You know, that was almost like the sense I got with it, which was like that was Mark Hamill in the days when he was like, I could care less what happens with, you know, it's kind of like when, you know, people ask Harrison Ford who shot first, he's like, I don't care, you know. It's like, you know, so I kind of got it. It really, I think it's subtle, and I guess it depends. I just would have thought it was just like, I'm done with this. Just toss it to the side. Flipping it over the shoulder just seemed kind of jokey, and especially as you said with the episode 7, it was a different tone, and it almost felt like, you know, he was going to toss it over his shoulder and have a big old grin on his face, and it was just a little bit weird, but it was what it was, and it's like, I mean, you know, people get all negative about this stuff, and that gets jarring because people will find the negative of anything. Unfortunately, in like contrast to that, there's this new trend that's almost more disturbing, are the obsequious apologists who, you know, will praise whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, whatever decision they made, and I don't know if they've got, you know, into Lucasfilm or trying to, you know, sidle up to whatever. I mean, these things have positives, they have negatives, and people are going to have different views, and that's fine. You know, people shouldn't be overly negative, and people shouldn't just be blindly, you know, fawning over every decision that was made either. I mean, there's good things, bad things. The original trilogy wasn't all perfect either. I mean, these things, filmmaking, the choices, they make the choices they think are right at the time, and sometimes, you know, like I said, like with the humor in this, I just felt like most of the humor went a beat too long, you know. Perfect.
If you guys allow me to make a small...
I don't know.
Sorry. I just wanted to know if you guys would allow me to make like a small parenthesis, because there is a topic I just remember I wanted to talk about.
Sure. Which topic would that be, Diego?
About the First Order. Most people, and I have read that a lot in the internet, consider them to be just a fraction of the might of the Empire, or a bad ripoff or something like that. While I do think the Empire was way more massive, I have been thinking about it a lot more, and I think I'm going to. And the thing that shocked me when I was analyzing it is that I actually think they are, for the most part, in their nation in the unknown regions. I think they're communists in every sense of the word. And I'm gonna give my reasoning. I don't think they depend on the concept of money in order to be productive. I think that with the resources they had left over from the Empire, they were able to take the small coalition that they started out with, build themselves up in the unknown regions, and indoctrinate their numbers with utter, implacable religious loyalty to their state. They work how long they are told to work on whatever they are told to work on, and in return they are granted state-assigned lodging, food, medical care, and anything else they need, with the rewarded status and recognitions granted to high performers. Meritocratic, highly authoritarian communism cultivated with fanatical zeal in the name of the supreme leader. Think of it. They started off sitting on dozens of state-of-the-art warships designed for occupation of whole planets. Years of consumable aboard each, plus scouting equipment, mobile bases, probably an appreciable store of currency or valuables to use for trade later. Failing that, they could easily seize whatever they didn't already have. After that, it's just a matter of finding a world hospitable enough they could establish a base, secure all their survival needs, cultivate an effective commune. At some point, they start taking in more resources than they consume, and at that point, they would be able to grow. For the purpose of bartering with powers within Republic space, it wouldn't necessarily be an issue of securing wealth, given the kind of tools they had at their initial disposal. All they had to do after establishing their survivalist communities, just keep it going. Keep the core group small, and then ensure all newcomers are suitable brainwashed to value a pat on the back more than a Republic credit. One way or another, a single credit needn't ever change hands for them to create fortifications and new weapons with their advanced tool and the vast unexploited resources available for them in the unknown regions.
It was from the head, or you read that?
I wrote that. A bit of that was written down. The rest I got from an answer in Quora.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think there was some of that.
Especially
And the
with
fun
Canto
part
Bight-
is that sorry.
Especially with the Canto Bight thing, where they were trying to make the point that no matter what happens in the galaxy, these people are going to make money because they're going to make money off of the war from the rebellion or from the resistance or from the Empire or the First Order. That I don't know. The economics of the Star Wars universe has never really been something they've really delved into too much. I mean, I think the Leia Princess of Alderaan book got into a little. You'd have the real world aspects of you just can't have an empire that extracts value because you have somebody has. You have people who you need to feed. I mean, when she would go on those humanitarian missions, it was because the Empire was extracting all this value, but yet you still have people to feed and have general infrastructure and so forth. And if you're extracting all this value, you're in essence, you in essence have to just let them starve and die, and all the horrible things that the Empire did do, so that they had the resources they could do. They tore, they strip mined planets and left the people with the ruins. I mean, there's been a lot of inconsistencies with the economics of how the Star Wars universe works. And I still don't know how the First Order ended up with all their stuff. I mean, I doubt, just because somebody sold, the Rebellion a TIE or an X-wing and the First Order a TIE fighter. Well, who sold them the supremacy? I mean, where was that built, and how much did that cost, and where did they get the resources? I think that's just one of those squishy space opera things where it's just like, yeah, you just kind of just nod, shake your, just don't pay attention to that stuff too much, because you're probably never going to find anything that makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think what we'll do now is we'll start wrapping up, but I want to hear what everyone is looking forward to for episode 9 the most, because this is where I am with it after The Last Jedi now. And I don't know, let's just assume, I don't know exactly. People might know more better than I do. I hear things about Snoke and Luke still being in episode 9, so I have to kind of take that into consideration as well. But do you think we're looking at the completion of Kylo and Rey? That's the main storyline going back and forth? Or do you still think that there's so much left to tell with Luke and Snoke?
I feel like they resolved so much in this movie that I didn't expect them to. That almost going to be like completely, either further in the future or I don't know. I was surprised that we had as much resolution in this movie as we did. Like I wasn't expecting Snoke to die yet. I mean that I didn't expect Phasma to already. There's so much that's been removed. It's like, what are they going to replace it with? It's kind of like Game of Thrones. It's like, oh my gosh, you just had the Red Wedding. You just killed half the people. You're going to bring in more characters to replace these. That ramp them up so people care about them. And I don't know. It definitely feels like they're really, going to do their, they're handing the torch, and now it's going to be, the fresh crew, and maybe a new resistance, maybe years down the road. I don't know.
That's definitely fair. Does anyone have any things they're looking forward to the most for 9?
I really hope we're going to see like another kind of similar Snoke appearance. Maybe like you were saying, like we're still going to see Luke and Snoke. But with the Luke thing, I really expect him, or to at least see his Force Ghost messing with Kylo, or at least making himself known to him. So that should be pretty interesting to see how that works out.
So you want Luke to Force Ghost to become a master of trolling?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some kind of EU story where he was messing with like a grandson of his, and he kept coming to him in the end. And I'm thinking something similar will happen in this story.
Yeah, Kate Skywalker.
Yep.
Well, he does still have the beard, and we know that he hates having the beard. So maybe he's keeping it until he has to film whatever Force Ghost footage he needs to film. What is it? Start in January is when filming starts. I believe I heard.
Really?
I don't remember.
Wow.
But I mean, maybe he hates having to have the beard, and he still has it. So either he's keeping it to, keeping it for, misdirection purposes, so people would think he's going to be in the next one, or he is keeping it because he's got some, obligations to fulfill, maybe some Force Ghost shooting, and then he can shave it off. I don't know. That's the speculation that I've kind of been giving it.
Do you guys think that the film can just carry alone? Let's assume for a moment that Snoke and Luke aren't in it, or at least very, very small role in it. Do you think that Kylo versus Rey is enough? I mean, taking aside the First Order versus Resistance and possibly New Republic, but I feel like at this point, Rey has kind of like gotten the better of Kylo quite a bit at this point. Now, maybe Kylo is going through a significant transition at this point where he's going to come out a much different Kylo. I don't know what the time jump would be. I personally, I hope it's like a year, but I don't know. Does anyone have an opinion on whether or not just Kylo versus Rey is enough for Episode 9?
I don't know. Part of me really likes the idea of the only real expectation or hope that I have for Episode 9 is completely unrealistic, and that would be opening up on 5 years later or whatever, and you've got an opening scene with massive armies of both of First Order and Resistance people fighting each other in a massive ground battle, with Rey and Kylo having a duel as kind of like opposing generals on a battlefield, and then for whatever reason they end up getting separated again, and then we end up with the storyline going somewhere along the line of this war is chewing up the galaxy, this needs to end somehow, or something like that. But that's completely that would be really cool to see.
To have like a Battle of Rusin situation.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like they're going to have way too much. I mean, they've established the Resistance is like nothing left. They're going to have a ton to rebuild before they do anything like that. I mean, certainly more than 5 years, I would think.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I feel like, I almost wonder if they'll go, I don't know. I mean, I almost felt like, geez, they could just end this trilogy with 2. I mean, you've got the lead on to where the future generation with the little group kid and whatnot, and it's like, what are they going to do? I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I'm actually, the more I think about it, it's like, I wonder if Luke won't even be a Force Ghost in the next one. I mean, if they're going to resolve anything with Kylo Ren, I mean, who knows, maybe we'll have an Anakin Force Ghost appearance. There's been talk of that. I mean, that would probably be more relevant to Kylo Ren's story arc. I mean, Luke, at this point, what would that really do for Kylo Ren? If his grandfather stepped in, then all, I don't know. But I mean,
Yeah,
Rey doesn't
what we
want to
do.
really. Rey doesn't
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley has said she doesn't really want to play Rey after 9. So maybe they're going to go, heck, we need to shove this further out, and I don't know, and maybe Kylo Ren will be this, big bad Darth Vader type character, because they can probably have him, still be a menace, further down the line. I don't know. It's open. There'll be a gazillion theories, I'm sure.
We still haven't seen the rest of the Knights of Ren. They are definitely going to show up in episode 9 if they know what's good for them.
Yeah, great point. I think Matthew wanted to get in there, and if Andrew, you did too, we'll go Matthew and Andrew there.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, if we were going to end with a Rey versus Kylo, like you would have to make it as an epic scale of a lightsaber battle is Obi-Wan versus Anakin. Like there is no way around that. If you wanted that kind of ending, at least that's my belief, or what I would hope for. Kind of similar to Andrew, like I'd go for the super epic battle between them on ground, like he said. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you both, and I would love it if 5 years, as much as like 30 years, like you said, Ben, might be a bit too much, but 5 years, at least 1 year, because I would love it if we played out this. It would be a bit disappointing because it would be sort of Clone Wars again. We don't get to see like the bulk of the Clone Wars, but I hope it jumps. Sorry, what were you going to say there, Andrew?
I was just going to say why. Just to say that live action TV series. Just saying.
Yeah.
It comes out the same year as episode 9.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then also we have no idea where Rian Johnson's trilogy is going to go. A lot of people are theorizing that it's going to be, Broom Boy and stuff, post episode 9. But I don't know. I still don't know about that. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed if, Broom Boy. I know he's got a name in the visual dictionary. I don't remember it, but he'll always be Broom Boy to me. But if like Broom Boy is like the main character for Rian Johnson's trilogy, I'm cool with it. But I don't know.
It's probably just boy with broom in the visual dictionary. Yeah.
No.
It'll be like Sheldon Cooper. They'll have a series with the
By the way, in terms of, I really like your opinion of your expectation for the basic ground battle and the duel, even though it's probably, it could happen, but I'm not holding my breath for it. What I am also not holding my breath for it would be my expectation that would be cool, but probably won't happen. That episode 9 will be called The Porg Menace.
Gosh.
Return of the Porgs.
That's not even funny.
Revenge of the
Porgs.
After Chewbacca eat it.
They've infested the Falcon. They're in there for good. I mean, they're going to be in every nook and cranny.
Yeah, they've taken over the Falcon at this point. The Porgs, I have to say, weren't as egregious as a lot of people feared they would be. It's funny. I haven't seen all the criticisms I've seen. I haven't seen one Porg criticism. So at least we survived the Porg war.
Yeah.
I heard that somebody, I don't know, an interview or something I heard that I somehow stumbled on was that, they were saying that the Porg, they're not the safeguards, the keepers of the Jedi Temple and whatnot, but clearly that was that other species. So I went in thinking that they were just these little animals that were kind of like tending to the grounds and whatnot. I thought that's kind of weird for a little, bird things that, to be doing that. And then you had these other characters that they never really dealt with, these little the nuns or whatnot of the monastery. And so I don't know where, but at some point those were conflated, those two. So when I just saw the Porgs were just these little birds on the island, I'm like, oh, they're fine. they weren't Ewoks or anything.
To quote Avatas in the chat section, Porgs carry the spirit of Darth Bane.
Yeah, I just responded to that too. We had an essence transfer from. I put Bane twice. What a fail.
So I wonder what Yoda. I mean, Yoda being kind of crappy to totally screw up all these people who've been maintaining that place all these years. He's just like, burn it down.
Yeah. Did anyone else? See, I had said to some of you guys that I missed the books actually surviving, the ancient texts. So yeah, thanks to people for pointing that out, because I had, in my review, I had pointed out quite a bit, assuming that the texts were destroyed as well. But I guess Rey does have those on the Falcon with her, which is, I don't know.
And Finn pulls a blanket or something.
Yeah, how does it go? Somebody posted a brief shot of it, but it was right before Poe meets Rey. So I think Rey is looking at a drawer, and then she turns around, and this is the scene where Poe introduces himself to her. So, yeah, that's interesting. I had big hopes for those Jedi texts, but I guess we'll have to. It remains to be seen. But with that, guys, does anyone have any last pertinent thoughts on Episode 8? I'd have to say this whole experience has been really good for me. And now we kind of get into the fun part where we can discuss it. So does anyone have any final thoughts? Or?
Well, I never really asked Donna what she thought of the movie as a whole.
Overall, I actually gave it an 8.5. It has some severe problems, but I think it's something that I can overall enjoy. So, yeah.
I'm about the same spot, I think. I need another viewing though before I give like a definitive rating. I refuse to rate it on Thursday night, and I think I'm still at that point. But what we'll do is we'll close there. Again, thank you so much to everyone in chat and the super chats that we were given. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys hanging out here with us on a Sunday on the opening weekend. And to everyone in the live discussion here, again, thanks for the support and also for joining in on this live discussion as well. I appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It was fun.
Take care.
All right, and with that, we'll say goodbye, everyone, and we'll be talking soon. We're not done with the Episode 8, The Last Jedi, at all. So again, thanks again, guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone.
Well, and remember for people in the chat to leave more comments in the channel. If not for us, for Luke's Force projection.
All right.